I'm like,
Hey, what's up, Ray?
you know,
So my old bookkeeper sent me an invoice for like $400, and I was like, I already paid you everything I owed you. Why would I owe you more money? She's like, oh, good catch. You're right. You are paid up. I'm like, you're a trip. I swear to why you're not here anymore. I think she was over a biller. Like just like a lot of stuff she did seemed like it took too long.
and then she billed you after she was done working with you.
I know. I'm like, I fired you like 2 weeks ago. So like, I don't
It's
need
like
more bills.
selling a house and like going back to the buyers and being like, "Hey, you owe us another $214,000."
Yeah, exactly. That's not good. So bookkeeping wise, I want to talk a little bit about that today and just in general, because we're going to be going into some really in-depth stuff like you talked about, like making your money work for you. There's going to be some really cool stuff that I've got like a lot of people working on right now. I'm spending a decent amount of money because I'll know I'll get it in return from many facets, my own personal money, my own business money, and then being able to help students too will be awesome. So everyone as a community, we can start getting better around like building wealth, because all flipping really does is generate income for us. And then once we really master that and we get it working really well and we're honing it in and we're doing that as well as we can, then eventually, like you're right, it has to have a purpose, right? There has to be something long term. And long term wealth is always built when it's not, when it's almost being done kind of behind the scenes. This is why IRAs are so powerful. It's not because they're actually one of the worst vehicles ever to save money, and they're just, you can't do anything with them, you can't invest with them, they suck in general. But the reason they still work really well is because people's discipline is so bad. You know, people's discipline is like, the IRA doesn't allow you to take the money back, so it actually keeps people pretty disciplined. And that overall long term putting money to the side is huge for overall wealth.
Yeah,
So a big part is, though, I think if most people understand that and they can be more disciplined, that we can start kind of like skimming off the top, essentially, right? Having a
yeah.
certain amount of money that goes into things that are going to help, get us more good around money. I don't really recommend buying rentals right this second, obviously, because, I think we're in two reasons. One, obviously, you can't evict people, and there's a lot of weirdness going on. The courts are shut down. But two, being the refi piece of it, being like, without that, rentals kind of suck. I've run a lot of scenarios, and we did this in the past, and it was one of our big mistakes. But anytime you just put cash into a rental and you can't get that cash back, that rental's ROI greatly is reduced. Bro, it's just not a great place to put a bunch of cash, essentially. Not an awful place. It's still, if you, and a lot of people do well with rentals are people who have so much cash that it's like almost too much. So now they want to get like lawyers, doctors, people making a lot more money than they can actually spend. They tend to like do well with rentals because they're just taking a lot of extra cash they need to get rid of and put it into the rentals. They do that over 20 years and then they're wealthy.
And
So
what if somebody would sell or finance something? Would you consider it?
yes, I would consider it if it didn't need a bunch of work and a lot of my cash. If you could
So
do
that was the
10K.
one that we sent you on the Marco Polo.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't even see a Marco Polo.
that was well, you answered it last week. It was like a week old, and I forgot to go into it on the call because we were going over comps and stuff for that new property.
Yeah, I
But
mean, so when I say I would consider it once you feel comfortable being a landlord. I would not feel comfortable being a landlord right this second. But let's say that things clear up in a couple months, but the financing doesn't clear up, which is going to be a very likely scenario that's going to happen. We're going to get to a place where, it's okay to rent again. The courts are back open. You can evict people. People are going to be on this, like, they're on a stay right now where, like, people could literally rent your house and just be like, F you, I'll never pay you again, and be 6 months to get them out. So personally, I don't really necessarily want to buy into that right this second.
Right? Does that make it
Let me
better?
see if I can mute that one
Did
second.
what?
We both forgot. I said we looked at each other yesterday.
All right. So I wouldn't want to be a landlord why you can't get someone out, obviously, right? Because that's brutal. That will clear up for sure. That just, I think life will have to go back to normal there. That's the law and justice system, right? The legal system will always have to run or the country can't run. People lending to rehabbers, that doesn't necessarily, that's something that I've only seen when things are at like a premium. So
okay.
it might be quite a while to get things back to that, right? You might see those loans gone for 2 years, 18 months. So if we get back to where we can rent, then the only real concern then would be the money piece of it. So yes, if you could do owner financing and there was no money out of your pocket, that would be worth it. I would not buying, honestly, I would buy in areas. So one of the big things for me is buying in areas that depreciate, that have appreciation. Deep Creek, for whatever reason, is if you want to just buy one for the fun of it because you like being there, fantastic. It is not an appreciating neighborhood. Like values do not go up hardly at all, and they go down badly in bad economies. So
Yeah.
it's like you get all the loss of like a down economy dropping to half the value, and you get none of the gain of like when the economy's up, you don't get it
It's all
doubling, tripling in
disposable
value.
income.
Yeah, you basically are just getting, it's like a one-ended scenario, right? It sucks.
Yeah.
So, and it's again, anytime you buy vacation rentals in areas that are too hot, then people get crazy. Ocean City, Maryland's that way. I don't know anyone that's making any profit in Ocean City, Maryland, because they all want to own there, right? Even me, I was thinking about getting something in Florida, and I'm just like, I'd be better just spreading and going to Florida every couple months if I want to. It'd be cheaper on me because you think about taxes and everything. And with the Airbnb, it's figuring out if you're going to own something, it's going to be a lot of work. And right now, Airbnb is shut down, and I don't know how. But like the travel economy is very low right now. So long term, that is going to definitely affect the Airbnb thing, and that could be quite a while before that gets back to like full capacity of people traveling and people going to these vacation spots. So it could really take a devastating hit in those areas long term. Because one thing I will say, as much as I talk how great, what we do is doing really well, I could tell you like vacation rentals and Ocean City and all those areas have to be devastated right now. I'm not looking into them, but I can just tell you because people, they need homes, they need essential homes, but they don't need secondary, homes. Even my car right now, I try to sell my convertible Camaro, and no one wants to buy it. Like I took it to CarMax, and they were like, yeah, they had one on the lot for 29, exactly the same as mine. Like same condition, I had less miles on mine, and they were going to give me 13 for it. And CarMax is pretty known to give you a fair price. They generally give you a very fair offer. That's why I went to them. But they were like, oh, well, we're being conservative right now because nobody's buying luxury items. They consider like a convertible two-seater, Camaro like a luxury item. It's not a need. He's like, oh, we're crushing it on like the, the everyday cars, right? Like the Honda Civics and shit. But we can't sell the convertible stuff, stuff it's like secondary. When things are good, I'll buy something like that. So they're being very cautious. I can't even sell. I got my car just sitting outside because I don't want to take a big hit on it. I'm not going to sell for 13,000. Just bought it for like 46,000 like 3 years ago, and I got 18,000 miles on it. So yeah, I'm not taking 13. That's real bad. But I get where they're coming from, and I understand what they're saying is that they know that part of the market is going to get crushed. That part of like, something that you want versus something you need is taking a huge hit. So you want to think about that when it comes to homes too. So
it was actually the one that we looked at was so it's actually in a little condo about a block and a half off the beach down in Ocean City up here.
mm-hmm.
And it's my mom and her husband actually have a place in there as well. He's had the place for about 3 years. They're only like $100,000 places, but they're up on. There's a couple of people that rent them. They're up on there right now. We haven't done anything yet. We're gonna get.
What is it they want for it?
100.
Oh, they just want a straight 100 for it.
Yeah, but it's in an HOA. They're little. So people have them up right now, and right now people have them up for 125 a night. I talked to a few people down there that don't go like a VRBO route. They just rent it through like a weekly, like for an Ocean City rental for your summer vacation.
Through like a agent or something can do that. Like
yeah, and excuse me, they rent like $950 to $1,150 per week.
Okay.
And he's got it's a nice little. It's got a little swimming pool there. It's a block from the beach. Got designated parking.
How much is the HOA on it?
HOA and the taxes. Taxes are like $780 a year, and the HOA. Taxes and HOA are just under 400, like 393.
So 400 a month. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So, and then obviously it rents better in the summer and it's summer.
And ironically,
than it does in the winter.
Said, well, like I don't want to be anywhere near the beach from like Memorial Day through Labor Day. So in high season when it rents for the most, I wouldn't want to be near it. So I don't. We're just kind of tossing it back and forth. He said he would consider carrying the mortgage because he's looking for a different place. And he doesn't need to sell this to buy that. So he's like, yeah, I might carry back a mortgage for you.
So if they would carry back a mortgage at 0% interest, it's a no-brainer, just for the record. Okay. But if they would do it at any interest, then it's not a no-brainer. But so like you can almost pay retail for something at 0% interest. So think about a loan, a 30-year loan. You generally pay double. So if you got 100K 30-year loan, by the time you paid it off in 30 years, you would have paid 200K for it. So if somebody's like, I'll sell it to you for 100, it's kind of like you're getting it for 50 if they'll do it 100, but they'll just do owner financing. Even if they just do like 10 years interest only, or I mean, not interest only, principal only. And then you just said, hey, let's just break it down and divide it by 10 years and I'll make you that payment every month, right? You would know you'd own it outright in 10 years. And, you know, that you'd still probably be able to break even, or if you lost a little money, so what? Right? Because, you know, you're building equity like big time, and you're building equity in a wise way, because anytime you can get, and a lot of people will go for it. If they get their number, they don't really always care about the interest, right? As long as they can get their number. So they just want the headache off their hand. Maybe you give them $5,000 or something down, you know, so they got a little cash to walk away with, and then give them whatever.
That's what we even talked about. And he doesn't need it. Like I said, he's already shopping for another place.
Mm-hmm.
He would, and he's like, honestly, never thought about owner financing. He's like, I don't need to keep it, don't need to sell it. He's like, I'm kind of indifferent about it. So he doesn't really sound like he's attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, if we can make something that makes sense, I kind of ran the numbers on it to try and figure out where it would be profitable. And if we rented it, and this is on the super low end of where they rent, I wrote all the numbers down, but we could actually, just renting it from like middle of May through middle of September, when the weather's nice to be down there, we could actually cash flow pretty well on it, over and above the mortgage and the expenses. We've never done a short-term rental. We only have our long-term.
Yeah, you can give them $5,000 down and do like $1,000 a month for 8 years. It'd be paid off.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not going to hurt you. You know what I mean? I mean, I would, and he'd probably be okay because it's fairly short term. Give him like $5,000 down, $4,000 down. That'd be $96K. You give him $1,000 a month. A lot of people like the monthly because they don't get hit with that big chunk of money. So
well, that's what I told him too. I'm like, hey, this might cover this will cover your taxes and your payment on your new place.
Yep, and then you'll be taking off the headache of the $400 a month taxes and HOA, and it costs you $1,400 a month. I mean, at $1,400 a month, it wouldn't really matter if you're cash flowing. It would be more about building the debt, the equity, and building the wealth around, you know, the house itself, and then having a cool little home you might go to, right? So it would be more about that long term. Than 8 years, you would own that outright.
That's what it would be. Like, yeah, like our two rentals we have now, like we just set them up. I don't know if it was like dumb luck, but we just have such insane numbers on the first two rentals we picked up.
Mm-hmm.
We've had the one lady's been there for almost 4 years, and she just keeps renewing. And the other, and they're all like clockwork. If they're a day late, they include the rent with the late payment on there. Like,
yeah,
it's good. So I realized it wouldn't be that. So I told Hannah, I'm like, that's what I have to disconnect from. Is it's not going to be that. It's going to be. I'm going to try and figure out how to get it cash flowing, but I'm like, it's going to only cash flow from May through September.
Yeah. I mean, if you're building the wealth and you're doing it, like if you can get someone to do 0% interest, it effectively makes it like you're buying it for $50K. So the fact that the only way you'd be able to pay that
the
house
upside to somebody, like if somebody tried to pitch you on 0%,
you say, look, I can give you $80K for it, but you know, and give you 5% interest, or I can give you $100K in 0% interest, and then we just divide it by it, and I'll pay it off in 8 years. I'll give you $1,000 a month, and I'll give you $5,000 down, $1,000 a month. If you just say it like that, people are always like, I'll take the $100K. But what they don't realize is 5% interest. I don't know, 5% interest over like 8 years and getting like 20K less. I don't know the math of that, but it probably is. It's good. No matter what, no one can run those numbers unless you have like an MBA. So I can tell you like right off the bat, no average Joe is going to be able to run the numbers and tell if that's better or worse. Right? Because maybe 80K is better, maybe it's worse. I don't even know, but I can tell you people are just going to hear 80K or 100K, and it's going to make the 100K sound awesome. So I mean, you can go around and pay full price if, say, I bought a house right now that's selling, like say I bought your rehab that you sold for $325, and you're like, Mike, I will sell you my house for $325. I could buy it full price if you would own or finance it for 30 years, 30 years at 0% interest. I could buy it for full price, because think about what my mortgage would be. My interest principal on that is like $1,000 a month on that, even for 30 years. So it's really nothing. Then I could rent it out for $2,000 a month and cash flow it, and then I could actually pay it down pretty quick if I wanted to also. So yeah, it's the owner finance thing is always pretty genius. because as long as it's 0% interest, this is the piece people forget is sometimes most people won't even ask you about the interest. And if they do, you just say, hey, look, I was giving you the 100 because of 0% interest. I'd be at 80 if you want like, the going rate or something. Because then it might just make sense for you to go buy something else, right? You might just go, now you can go, if you're going to go shop like and get a regular loan, well, you might as go find a fixer upper or look for something you're going to get a better deal on. Because if you're going to have the headache of the loan and getting a loan, and the interest is really the key. Most people don't consider the interest being on a 30-year loan is pretty insane. But no, people pay interest. One of the biggest mistakes we make in life is paying interest to a bank. One of the things I'm working on right now is figuring out how to pay down my mom's house and Tanya's house in the next 5 to 7 years. So that's a goal for me, that we'll have both of those, all those houses paid off. So my uncle's house will be paid off, my mom's, and Tanya's we'll have no mortgages. Because if we pay it off quick, we're gonna take away all the mortgage interest. If they take, like my mom's is about 7 years old and Tanya's like 2 years old. So, I mean, if they paid the rest of the interest on that, we're talking Tanya's would be like 200, another 185K in interest. Paying it off in 5 years, I can cut like over 150K of that off. So that literally puts 150K in net worth to her and I. And then my mom, same thing, right? So she's in the same similar position. So she'd probably be about, she'd be cutting off about 100,000, 110,000 in interest. So people don't realize when they buy a house, they think they're getting a great deal, and it's 5%, 4%, 3.5%. That all seems harmless, but at 5%, it's double. Yeah, you're buying the house twice, so it's literally double. So if you can find a way to pay it off early, you're actually getting rid of a lot of that interest that you don't need, and that interest you don't need to pay. So, I mean, my big thing now that I know what I know is I'm not buying a house I can't pay off in 5 to 10 years. So, that's just going to be what I do from now on. Because if I can't pay it off in 5 to 10 years, effectively, I'm paying too much for it. No matter what I really need to get a good deal. If not, but the interest is the way to get the best deal. Like, no one even thinks about the finance part of it. That's like Warren Buffett stuff. Like, that's what he thinks about, is like, how do I save money even though I'm not saving money? So yeah, if you can get someone to owner finance, it's a smart deal. But I wouldn't personally, if you like it and it's something you're going to buy and you can pay off, in 10 years, it'll be good down there. It's not going to get worse. You're talking about Ocean City, New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It won't get worse.
I like the fact that we just kind of weigh in it. Like, we're kind of indifferent one way or the other. Like I said, it would be nice, but in high season, like, it's too crowded for both of us down there. Like, we wouldn't go out to Wheat Creek. So it's like, that's when we would rent it. And it so happens that that's when it would be most profitable. Like, that's the best time to.
Well, you could honestly usually make most of if it's $12,000 a year, it's going to cost you plus $400 a month. So that's 4,000, cost you about $17K a year. So you probably could pick up a good chunk of that in just your high season. And usually you can rent them in spring and fall too.
Yeah. And that's what we were looking at. We average at about $1,000 a week, figuring like some of your weeks are going to be higher, like a 4th of July and stuff like that. But we figured at $1,000 a week from May through September. We figured, and that's why I said, like, we should be able to potentially break even on that right there. Like, we should, even if we miss a week per month, that's 14 of the 17 right there.
Yeah. But remember, don't think about your payment as you need to break even, because if you're doing an 8-year loan with no interest, then breaking even would be insane to you. If you can break even, you're awesome, but I doubt you will, because, after all your fees and everything, cleaning and all the stuff you got to do between tenants and everything, I wouldn't think, but you're not breaking even on an 8-year loan is insane. But if you got anywhere close, just think of it as equity build. So this is the big thing to talk about today, right? It's like, we got to understand the difference of like an asset versus like expense, right? So we often think like, I treat my coaching and I put it right to my rehabs. So my money I spend with my coach every month, I break it off and I divide it across my rehabs, and I realize it's almost like him helping me with my projects, and it becomes a rehab cost. And the thing about any of my rehab costs is they're not expenses, they're assets. They go right onto my balance sheet. Remember we were talking about that? So there's a difference between an expense, and expense is when you go to Chick-fil-A, right? That's an expense. You eat that, you never get that back, right? It comes out your butt, and and then you got to pay to flush it, right? You got to pay for toilet paper. So it just, costs you all different ways. And if, it's too spicy, it might be costing you a whole nother way, right? It's too awful.
Cost you a roll of tongue.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Who knows what might happen. So, but if you think of something as an asset, so when we were talking about their renovation costs going to the asset, that was the thing where he was trying to make it like, I don't know what he was trying to do, like some kind of invoice or something. No, you make it an asset. And the reason you make it an asset is because every time you put $500 or $2,000 into your rehab, it's not an expense. It's an investment. You will get that back, right? And you'll get it back often with a return, but you'll always get dollar for dollar back if you've done your job correctly. So, if we put 80K into a renovation, there's never a time we don't collect our 80K back, usually, unless we've made some big mistakes. And often we get 80K plus some profit in return. So it's an asset, right? It's an asset that you put your money out. It's like your cash is just going from your bank account, right? So your cash reserves go down, but your equity and ownership of your properties goes up. So you put 50K into a renovation, you now have 50K assets sitting in that renovation, but you have 50K less in your cash reserves. It all balances out. Where people make the mistake is they take the 50K out of their bank account, they put it into the rehab, and they're like, oh, I'm broke, right? I don't have any money. No, you don't have any cash, right? You do need to have cash, but if you got it in a rehab and you're going to sell that rehab, you will get the money back. See, my partner used to argue with me all the time, and he's like, no, it's an expense. It's money going out. It's an expense. I'm like, it's not an expense. It's an asset, because that money is it's like if you went and put money into the stock market, it's an asset, right? If you invest in something, that money is there. It's not spent. It's not like buying a car, and it's, a car is a depreciating asset. You do have an asset of the car, but it's worth less as soon as you pull it off the drive, right off the yard or out of the lot, it's worth less money. So that's why they call it a depreciating asset. But when you take and put money into a renovation, it's an appreciating asset. The house is going up in value. You're often getting a return on your investment. So it is a good place to funnel your money and put it into the renovations. And it's no different than putting it into a rental long term. The reason rentals can be very lucrative is you get the bank involved, and you get where you don't have a lot of your cash out, then you can start collecting a return on cash you didn't even actually put out. Right. So now, like when you take and get a rental and someone owner finances it to you and you give them $5,000, right? You could start saying, I put out $5,000, and maybe you put $5,000 into cleaning it up or something. So you're like, I put out 10 grand, but here's what I'm getting in return. So in 10 years or 8 years, you put 10 grand out, and maybe it costs you a couple grand a year and money you got to make up. So your overall output investment into this asset will be, effectively probably like, say it was $3,000 a year. Like it's going to be times 8 is going to be what, 24. So 24,000 plus your initial 10, you'll be 34,000 into something that 8 years from now likely will be worth about 125K. So you see what I'm saying? Your cash on cash return over 8 years is really insane, about 30% a year. So because, you're not putting a lot of cash out. That's why the cash piece with rentals is very important. If you were to pay the whole 100 for it, now you're trying to, over 8 years, you're just going to be counting money, and it's not going to be any.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it where we would put the money out. Like we figured at most we'd put like somewhere between 5 and 10 into it. Because we also have a cash reserve account from the 2 rentals.
Yep.
That we just have sitting there in a separate LLC, and that's all after tax money. So we keep trying to play around with, do we look at buying another rental? And then when we saw this, we're like, if we took 10 from that, we still have the cash reserve in that rental LLC.
Yeah.
We thought at least this would be something else because I agree with you. I don't on the long-term piece of it right now, I'm not really looking to set anything up as far as that goes for rentals right now.
Yeah, it's cool to take a loss on it, because like I would take the loss on it intentionally to pay it off in 8 years. If you can pay it off in 8 years, there's nothing better than that, because once it's paid off, and then you can get equity lines on that, and you can go buy other rentals. You can take and buy 2 or 3 more rentals off of that. Once your ones you have now are paid off, same thing, right? So the faster you pay off your first couple rentals or get them really paid down, the faster you can start building like some real portfolio that matters.
On the 2 rentals we have right now, we could even draw more. Like I could cash out, refi them again right now.
Mm-hmm.
We left them on purpose. Like we just left them with a lot of equity, and they cash flow better. And I'd rather have more equity than debt again.
Yeah. Well, right now, here's what I'm going to tell you about rentals. Right now, here's what I've been telling you guys. We're waiting for that right market for rentals, is why I'm not buying rentals. It is not that market. Where I told you this is one of the greatest flipping markets you'll ever see, happens to make it one of the worst rental markets you'll ever see. Prices are still insanely high, even though we're in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody's giving a discount, right? And then things are selling really well in the back end, but not to renters, like any kind of landlord property, any property that's like secondary property, Ocean City, any property like that is not going to sell as well right now as it would have sold a month ago or before Corona, because like right now people just aren't buying those as much. And, I'm not saying you can't sell it. I'm just saying that if you sell a house for 300 today, you probably could have got 350 a month and a half ago. And that's just the reality of it. And then that could get worse over the next 6 months to a year. It really could get worse as that money might dry up, because that money is always the first money to go. Because what do you think the first houses that people give back to the bank when shit gets real? It's always the house, the vacation house at the creek or down Ocean City or wherever, right? The beach house. It's always that, because that's the way it is. People, if they got to make a choice, the house, roof over their head is the one that's always going to get win, not the one that they like to go to. So if stuff goes down, they're going to always give that back. So the banks, when things are tight, they stop making those loans as easy. Right? They're not as gung-ho to make those loans because so it's harder to find buyers that can actually get financing. And the ones that can get financing now feel like, oh, okay, well, I'm one of the few people who can buy a house like this.
Yeah.
So, I want a deal. I'm not overpaying. So, you're not going to get 14 offers on your property, and, just not going to get that there. You'll get it everywhere else. So Kill just put his house in the market just recently, got 14 offers on it. But again, it's another one of those townhouse, 21207, Glen Oak area. It's just one of those areas that's really hot right now. It's not a great area, but it's a hot area. So I personally just would be like, if you feel like you need to buy rentals, just make sure you're getting a smoking deal. If you're not getting a super good deal, pass and move on. There will be good.
Yeah, this wouldn't be a crazy, in all honesty, compared to our first two rentals. I already looked at that. I'm like, this isn't a copy of the first two, and I'm aware of that, and that's what I'm kind of like treading lightly.
Dude, then why do it? Because you know what? It's also going to be more headache than the first ones. So it's a worse deal, and it's going to require 10 times the work. So, I mean, yeah, I would go at it like, here's what I like. And if he says no, he says no. Let him make the choice for you. I think that's the approach I would be making right now.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't need to sell, and I don't need to buy it.
Well, it'd be better if you found a situation where they need to sell and you don't need to buy it. That would be perfect. That's the situation you want to be in. Because I don't know, there's an obsession, right? There's something weird in our psyche that makes us want to own like vacation properties, even though, like you said, you probably never go to them. But also, if you don't like going in the high season, you probably can rent those things for a song, right? You can go find deals in the fall and spring and winter at Ocean City, New Jersey. You just are. You'd always be able to rent somebody else's house at a super cheap price, because half the time they're just trying to fill them. So anyhow, I mean, if you get a good enough deal, do it. If not, pass on it. Right now is not the time to buy rentals. What I'm planning on doing in the next 5 years is paying off a lot of stuff and banking a lot of cash away so that I can start buying rentals in about 4 to 5 years. When Trump goes out of office is my plan, because I 100% think he's getting reelected. And then second, 100% I believe him that he's going to bring the economy back. I doubt I'm going to be wrong about that. He's a genius around money. Even if he fake props it up and then, it's like a heart attack, it's like we're on steroids right now. We're all going to have like a stroke in 5 years when somebody else, or 4 years when a new president comes in. I think that's what's going to happen. We'll see. I'm almost positive, because it always happens when it transitions from someone who's great with money. Like, who in the heck is going to get reelected? They're going to reelect the opposite, like they always do. It's the balancing of our country. And with that, there's going to be a little bit of a downturn, slowdown. Not going to like crush our businesses, but it might get us to a real place where we can buy some good rentals, right? Like back where we can start getting some deals. Like, because I'm telling you, Corona has not done anything to get deals yet.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on, right? There's like no deals. Look, you guys, when you see this big pile of money I got, check this out. Hold on, let's just tune this in. All right. I'm giving these out to people. I'm like, here, man, here's a little money, homeless people and stuff. Man, fuck you. Here, man, here's a little something for you. It's a little something for you, man. Oh, thanks, man, thanks. Then they give me the finger as I ride away, because they look at it, they got a 2020 bill. So anyhow, I mean, that's kind of my plan. I'm working with some pretty smart people right now at that CFO, and I'm looking through money, and I'm also looking into HELOCs and the velocity banking, and I'm trying to figure out how to take and pay things off faster through manipulating the mortgage stuff. That's some pretty interesting stuff, but complex. So I got to wrap my head around it. It's like definitely above my pay grade, but like anything in life, I can learn it. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today about not exactly bookkeeping, but definitely around just how we're going to track our money. And Tanya is now working on some really interesting way to kind of get everything working offline, so it isn't QuickBooks, but she's working on how to get right now. So when you're spending money every week on your rehab, we can have it where the money goes right into a spreadsheet, but that spreadsheet then talks to the overall budget that we use, right? You know how we put a budget together when we buy a line item. So we want where we pay people each week, and then we take and do a spreadsheet each week, and then that will take right from the budget. So we always have a instant real-time view of where we are with our budget versus our spend. And we're doing that on like Excel, because I think that's a great place to do it. It's a more instantaneous place. Also for the group in general, I just feel like it's simpler, and it also makes me more comfortable to have like a VA messing with it versus a VA messing with my QuickBooks. So ultimately, I'm going to share that with you. We're almost complete with it. She's actually put in all the labor stuff, and it's working really well. Now she's going through materials and pulling materials off like Home Depot. So I'm going to get a really good working system for that. That way we have some really good understanding for the group, because probably the biggest area of it opportunity right now is cutting costs, right? It's like diving into your numbers, really drilling in and figuring out how to be super smart around like what you're spending. I can tell you I've been doing it for the last month, and I've never felt more confident, right? I feel like I could punch a hole in the wall, like run through my wall financially at least. And I went from being kind of scared, in the beginning when we first went into Corona, because I was like, crap, I had a lot of houses, a lot of things were like waiting to settle, and a lot of my money was out. And all of a sudden I'm rich again, and I got 5 settlements in the next month. So now I'm gonna be super rich. But what I'm trying to do is get a better understanding of cash flow management, right? Because a lot of times what I've been doing and what I've been making mistakes with is one mistake I've made over the years is partnering with people, right? I don't know of anyone really who's doing that on the group now, but I know Micah's done it before in the past, Nancy, I don't think they're partnering with each other, but not really with anyone outside. The reason it's a huge mistake to partner with someone is because there's never a scenario where both partners do the same amount of work. And honestly, there's no business that can't be ran by yourself. When it's talking about flipping a house, you can learn to do everything yourself. You can become self-sufficient. You don't have to have the excuse of a partner who, is like basically just going to be probably the reason you decide to do badly. And also, it's a lot of work to flip a house. And what I found with my partner, it was the same amount of work to flip a house. And without him, it was actually easier, funny enough. I don't know how that works, but it was legitimately easier to flip a house without my partner than it was with him. And the best part was I got paid double when I got rid of him. So I'd spend half the time flipping the house and got paid double the money, because I wasn't always fighting about X, Y, Z with him. Like, he always had a way he wanted to do things. I had a way I wanted to do them. I have to tell you, man, I mean, the reason I've gotten from 150 down, now I'm planning on doing 2 a month, 24 a year. That's my new plan I'm putting together. And that plan for me, I'm just going to drill that in and get really profitable around that. That's enough to keep I have a couple people that make a decent amount of money, family members. So that'll be enough to make sure they're all making money. And that'd be easy for us to do. But the reality of it is I will have no partnerships, because there's no reason to partner with anyone. And I like partnering with people. So don't get me wrong. I actually enjoy it. But I recognize partnering with people as being something I like to do, but not something it's good to do. Giving out half your profit, we always think, well, oh, he's got construction people, or oh, this person's a realtor and they can bring me deals. So I'm not saying you shouldn't partner with people if they're going to do all the work, but I partnered with students for a while before you guys were around, and it was a train wreck. I'm going to tell you right now, it was a train wreck. I had the 2 worst flips I've done in the last 5 years were with students, because I felt like, because I had a student there every day, that I didn't need to watch them. And that was a mistake. It was crazy. Like, it didn't turn out so well. Like, we had some seriously bad deals. We had a couple good ones there, but I have good ones on my own. And what I don't have on my own is 3 good ones and 2 train wrecks that like lose 20K each, right? That's the shit you get when you partner with people. When you have control of it and it all goes wrong, you can look in the mirror and have like a real conversation with yourself and fix it, period. And then, you don't have to go try to convince somebody, argue with someone. So I don't really like the partnerships. I would say that that's kind of bad business. I also don't like wholesaling stuff for very small amounts of money if I could rehab it. The only thing I'm really wholesaling is if I have too many deals, or if the deal I don't wouldn't do because maybe it's a rental. I wholesale a lot of stuff like that. That's something I wouldn't do in general, like a rental, or maybe it's too far away. But I'm not really trying to wholesale anything that when I need a deal. So the only time I'll wholesale is when I don't need a deal. So if I've had a couple deals recently. I was really booked on deals in the last couple months. So I think I sold one, the one that Nikki's doing, and then the one that Jim and Nancy's doing, I wholesaled to them, but that's because I had too many deals. If I had more money, more time, I mean, I already had some houses sitting for 3 months in inventory. So it was a smart decision to sell the 2 deals I sold to them. Even though I like both deals and they were both in good areas I really enjoy working in, I just didn't have the manpower to buy them. So that's when I wholesale. But at the same time, I don't believe in wholesaling when you can rehab. I believe in making rehabbing so easy that you never want to wholesale. That's the key, right? Because wholesaling businesses run on too tight of margins. People who don't bring in the big bucks on their rehabs, then they generally don't make a lot of money as wholesalers. You get a lot of people doing tons of volume and got 16 partners and 15 employees. And you're like, oh man, we're doing 100 wholesale deals a year. And they look really pumped when you look at their numbers. And Ray can attest to this. There was people in our group, there's a guy doing 300 deals a year. And his numbers were like almost the same as mine. And I was doing like, I think 40 deals that year I did. But my 40 rehabs, it was 300 wholesales. And I had me and like 2 other people, and he had 16 employees in like 2 different locations, 2 different states. I mean, he was running an operation to make the same money as me. And it was on very tight profit margins, which I imagine is probably a struggle right now because wholesaling has gotten more difficult, right? Because there's a lot of the suckers are disappearing, the people who will kind of make that kind of business work. So I like wholesaling when it makes sense and it makes financial sense, but I want to look at every deal as like, how does it affect my overall net worth and my cash position? If I'm going to do a deal that's going to make me money 3 years later, but I don't have a lot of cash right now, then that deal's basically useless, right? I mean, deals are only good if they serve what you're trying to accomplish. And what we all should consider if we don't have a ton of cash right now is what gets cash in our bank account, and keep as much of that cash in your bank account. Because long-term cash being out of your bank account and then not knowing you can get it back for sure is a bad thing right now, right? I would say getting your money in and out quickly is what's super important and very advised right now. And always is, by the way. It's a pretty good, it's a solid foundation of a belief in any economy, right? Money in and out quickly. Micah asked me about building a new house. And honestly, the reason I've built 2 and I've had students build a bunch that I don't do them is because I know a couple really awesome house builders, and they don't really make any more money than me, but their deals take a lot longer and their overall cash outlay is like way greater than mine. And but they're happy to do so because, they have an operation and make 300-400K a year, and they're just really good at it. They know how to get shit approved. They know how to do all kind of cool stuff, but they're not getting rich. They're making like $45,000 a house, and they're selling like $300,000+ houses. So that, and they just don't, and they're doing like 10 or 15 of those a year. That's how they make money, but they got a lot more overhead, and their deals take a lot longer, right? A lot more cash out. A lot of them have like big money that's being given to them either by banks or by investors. So they have a lot more cash they have to come out of pocket with. So, because the overall process takes quite a long time. And that's when you know what you're doing. Now, I've had some people I've known who've done it, and I was like, no, I'm going to try to do it because I talked to a builder who's going to do it for me. He said he can get it all done in a couple months. Every single time it's been way longer. Like, I think the fastest I've ever seen a student do one guy got one done in 6 months, and maybe 7 or 8 months, and he made money on it like 20K. The rest have all been like 9 months to 18 months, and they've all lost money. Like, I'm conclusively, I've had like 10 to 12 deals or 8 to 10 deals that I think students have done. And I can tell you one good story. And even the one that was 22K, he was an accountant. That was my student as an accountant. He's actually a really good flipper. He probably flipped 50 houses before he did this. So he was actually pretty smart. He still only made 22K. And he's the one that told me, like, he's like, oh, I could have hard money lent and got better return on my investment than I got on this, because it was like a 250K investment to make 22K for 8 months. He's like, I could have hard money lent to you at 12% and made out way better. He told me that personally. Same thing. Me and him did a house in Chevy Chase for $1.4 million, and we made like $190,000 on it. And he told me the same thing. He's like, this took 11 months. We made $190,000. I had to give you half of it, so I made 80 or whatever it was, or 90, 85, something like that. I made 85. You made 85. And he's like, I had $1.1 million in cash out of my pockets into the deal. He's like, I could have hard money lent and made better money. So now you know why I don't do buildings. I don't do $1.4 million houses. The number that really dials in, and this guy's smart. He's an accountant. He's a financial advisor, and he looks at the math, and he's like, Mike, these are the ones that make the money. And my new CFO guy telling me the same thing, right? He's like, certain houses really bring you a ton of return, and other houses bring you a ton of risk. So doing new construction, the stuff's all real appealing, but financially, a little scary, right? It's a little dodgy, so you want to stay away from it. And I don't have any good stories. I wish I did, because that's how I make business decisions. If I could tell you, oh, Micah and Ray and Nikki and Nancy, I remember these guys did it, and here's how they did it. I'd love to be able to tell you that. If I've seen somebody do it, I'd be like, here's how they do it if you are going to do it. But when I have no versions of anyone doing it really well, unless you're like, that's your thing, and you become like, I'm going to be the best builder ever in like Middle River. This is how specific builders are, by the way. They're like Baltimore County, couple neighborhoods. They know every lot for sale. They know every old lady with a lot next to them that can be subdivided. I mean, they're like ninjas of getting the right deals and squeezing in. They know what they can get approved. They know the inspectors. They know all the land engineers. They kind of know the game in a big way in order to be able to make the same thing we make as flips. So it kind of like makes sense to just do the flips, right? Because they're kind of safer and easier, in my opinion. That's what I've seen. And because I kind of love the whole building houses thing is something that I'm very interested in, but I've had to tell myself not to do. I did two. My two did happen to make money, just not, I had a lot invested, and the money I made was very comparable to a rehab. But also when I did my two, I had 400 flips under my belt, just for the record. And I had full crews and everyone to do everything. And I messed up everything when it came to stuff that I didn't normally do, like the land engineering and all that stuff. And it just took longer than I expected because I didn't have a team in place. And it wasn't worth it. We just kind of went back to flips. But anyhow, so I'm talking about this because right now the real opportunity is in diving into your deals and figuring out how to cut costs and figuring out where you're going to save money. You're doing your numbers every week, and having a financial reporting system is what's going to help you do that. So Ray's setting that up now. He might be a week or two. I'm setting it up. Once I have it all together, I'm going to do a call with you guys and kind of walk you through it and really show you how I'm doing it. And there'll be room for people who on the call who aren't using QuickBooks to do it all in Excel. And if you do have QuickBooks, I'll show you how to do Excel and QuickBooks combination, right? So whatever you're using, we should be able to make it work. If you don't have Excel or that, then you can get Google Sheets, I guess, which is the same thing, right? You can just, because I think we're actually doing it in Google Sheets ourselves. So that don't cost you anything.
Well, I've got a question that's economic for you.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at fast approaching the installation stage. We've gotten some permits approved. We've got some inspections done and stuff over at Bodkin. And I've gotten a bid or a quote rather, from DeVere for doing the installation over there. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty convinced I can get it done a lot cheaper than what they want for it. They are looking at making $1,300 to $1,500 labor profit just over insulating the attic versus the cost of materials. And
what about the basement? You insulate the basement too?
Well, if they do the basement, they want me to spend a bunch of money on insulating the utility side that's not finished.
Yeah, you don't need that.
And I don't see the point in that.
Well, you might need to do that by code, but I'd let them make you do that, because I have seen Nikki actually, and I don't know if it's TJ or Nikki on right now, but TJ actually had that in his house in A County where they made him insulate an unfinished space. But here's the reality. Yeah, you could always do the installation cheaper yourself, big time. And it's not hard to do. It's not complex. It's one of the easiest jobs in there and one of the fastest jobs in there. Go to Home Depot, buy the material you need. The only time I've ever had DeVere do something for me is I actually had like a 35-foot ceiling, and it needed like special stuff done in a $800,000 house we did in Annapolis. It was like a 5,000 square foot home. And they came in and we looked at it, and we would have saved $1,000 if we did it ourselves, but we'd had to rent scaffoldings and all kind of stuff that I wasn't prepared to do. So I just had them do it. Every other time, they're generally double what I can do it for myself, so I'm like totally saving that money. And it's not hard to get someone to hang insulation in an attic and put, literally one guy could do all your insulation in a day if you got all the materials there. It's so quick and easy.
Well, I'm looking at saving $1,000 here, or maybe a little bit more than that, based on what they're talking about doing. Of course, they go to the nth degree, with all the caulking and the ceiling and the this and that and the other. But
dude, get the cheapest insulation you can get and still pass code, and do nothing more than what you need to pass code. That's it. Whatever will get you approved, and usually just stuffing the stuff in the thing, putting the right kind of insulation in, you will get approved. I don't know. Have anybody on the call ever been failed for insulation? How about you, Ray? Have you ever been failed for insulation?
For fire blocking,
Okay.
not for insulation.
Yeah, so I think so.
Yeah.
That is something. Fire blocking is pretty easy, but that's just, you just put a 2x4 above the insulation so that it doesn't like just go shoot up the
Yeah.
thing. It's pretty easy. But I don't think we've ever failed an insulation inspection. Even the few times when they're like, fix this, they were just like, hey man, fix this, send me a picture. I mean, they wouldn't even fail. I don't even think they like to fail you. So they're pretty easy. I'm not saying you can't fail. I'm only saying you generally don't fail, especially if you even try. And honestly, most of the time I've had my house is insulated like an attic and in the basement. I'm usually paying someone $200 to $300 to do it. And then I'm buying the cheapest possible materials at Home Depot that I can get that meet the code that we need to do. That's it.
Well, the funny thing about the basement is insulating the framed part that's finished. They want $480. I figured it's $350 worth of bats, so that they're only getting like $130 of labor on that. But when they get to the attic, they went crazy.
What is the difference in the attic? So the attic's where they're making all the money.
Yeah, they're making all the money in the attic. They're charging $1,300 to $1,500 to blow insulation in the attic.
What's their total cost that they want?
Well, they want $24.75 for the attic. For the work area, utility area, and the basement, they want about $1,200.
Really?
They want $480 for the finished basement part, and then for general fire stopping and air sealing, they want another $240.
So you're like $3,000 or $4,000. Yeah, you're going to save a lot more than that. I mean, my insulation I buy generally, if you get the cheapest stuff, you're probably looking at like $800 to $1,000 in insulation and about $300 in material. I mean, labor, $300 or $400 in labor. So yeah, you might be talking about saving more than $1,000, considerably more. So yeah, I would just do it yourself. I wouldn't use them. I don't use Devere. I used them one time in my life, and every other time I've done it myself. It's a very easy thing to do. It's going to save you a lot of money.
Well, I know one thing they do is they come out and do all the calculations and the submittals and everything for the BGE energy credits, but then
we don't care
before
about
they
that.
even leave the site, they tell you, well, you're probably going to get $2,700 back in energy credits. So when you look at it that way, we're only charging you $2,500 to do the whole house.
I got it, but that's just a sales pitch, yeah, dude. You're never going to get any of those energy credits.
Well, we did get them on 2 houses. We really did.
I mean, how long did you have to own them though? You're not going to own this house that long to get that credit.
There was no problem with that. Nobody ever said anything about it.
You're saying you can get the credit.
How long you owned it?
No, I'm saying you can. Well, how long did it take you to get the credit?
It took us about 6 weeks.
6 weeks to get the credit?
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you can get a credit, what does the credit do for you? Is it like a tax credit?
What they do is they come out and they do a assessment of the house. Your windows aren't sealing right. You don't have enough insulation in the attic, or the walls are under insulated. You don't have proper exhaust fan for your bathrooms, and they had all this stuff up all on the form and stuff. And BG&E offers you a energy credit based on the improvements that you make. So when they come in and say,
how do you spend that credit?
Increased the insulation.
How do you spend that credit, just out of curiosity? Like, how do you spend it?
They send you a check.
Like actual money?
Cash money.
BG&E will send you, you're saying BG&E is going to send you $2,700?
Yeah, it all comes out from the Department of Energy somehow, so It's federal funds, not really BG&E funds, I'm sure. They are just administrators.
So
still,
it'll cost you about the same thing, but you got to go get that check and everything and hope it doesn't dry up.
Right.
You don't make a mistake. You're out a couple grand. I mean, look, I hear what you're saying. That sounds like a headache to me. I'd be focusing on getting the rehab done and just getting the work done cheap. I wouldn't. You probably making it more complex than it needs to be. Because I'm
not too worried about it. I'm more worried about, like you said, getting this flip done.
Yep. Yeah, man, just get it done. I mean, Devere will be quick. I will give you that. They'll be in and out in a day. They're fast. I mean, that's one thing that's good about them. But at the
Oh
end of
yeah.
the day, I mean, I don't know if you know for sure you get the credit, then maybe it makes sense to use them. But I personally don't know enough about it to give you any advice around the credit because I tend to lean away from anything that is risky or not simple. I try to keep everything really simple. So I don't want to worry about like, oh man, my check didn't come. Now I'm out 25. Or I messed up the paperwork. That's the same reason with the chat. One time I lost 50K because I messed up chat credit paperwork. And I was like,
oh man.
now I pay this guy Neil Junker to do it because he's like 1250 or something. And I was trying to save the 1250 and I ended up losing 50,000. So I'm kind of like not doing that anymore on like a $550,000 house in Canton. I had a chap credit all set up and then I messed up something and they didn't give it to me. I sold it with the chap credit and they had to take 50K off the price to make up for the fact that I didn't have no chap credit. And they were like, yeah, that's 50. I ended up getting 500.
They saw you coming, didn't they?
They didn't see. Well, I made the mistake. I saw myself coming. I was the dummy. No one got over on me. I just didn't follow the rules like I should, and I made a big mistake. And that's why now I just hire people to do that because I'm not going to be. I don't do enough chap credits to become the expert at it. I don't do enough of them. So same thing with any credit like this. So I'm gonna try to come out and meet you guys sometime this week so I can see your house that Nancy talked about listing for you. But I'm also want to stop by and take a look at the one you're currently doing. I want to walk you guys through a little bit of what we kind of did recently, which is recently I was able to get in a house and we have this house Brooke, the one that we started recently. This will be going on the 5th week. This is our 5th week in the house. And I just came from there and hardwood's half done in 5 weeks. And it's an $85,000 renovation. So we've literally, week 1, we were able to get, so basically we did week 1, we had 5 guys, 3 guys did the waterproofing and 2 guys did the demo, maybe vice versa, somewhere in that ballpark. And so 5 days we had all the waterproofing, demo, everything done. And we had some of the framing done actually. So once they were done the demo in a couple of days, a couple guys started framing. So we had a little bit of framing started in week 1. By the time we got to week 2, a couple of days into week 2, we had all the framing done. Electric, HVAC, and plumbing all worked at the same time. They were in and out in 5.5 days, all 3 of them. On a full wire, rewire, full, all new HVAC system, ducts, everything. Plumbing, no plumbing was the same. We completely jacked up the layout. I mean, we made everything insanely different. I mean, complete redesign, right? Like nothing looks anywhere similar. And then while they were doing all those rough-ins, they went out and did the outside of the house, painted it. They did the railings outside. They put new doors in. They did the shutters, did all the window trim and all that stuff and got all the outside looking really good. They did the roof that week. This is like week 2 or 3. And then by week 4, they come in and they did week 3, they'd come back in and they did all the trim, cabinets, doors, and tile. Essentially 5 guys had all that done in week 3. Now we're 4. And then going into 4, that's where, I think we're going into 5 now. So I'm gonna make sure I missed a week, but now in week 5, I went there today. They're pretty much done painting. They have half the hardwood floor done. Granite's in, cabinets are done. They don't have a whole lot to do, honestly. They're going to be done next week. So we're looking at right around 5.5, 6 weeks. They're going to be complete. The reason I'm telling you this is because you're getting ready to get to a place where the gates open. Like, so for me, what I'm noticing a pattern when I wasn't driving and pushing people, I noticed a pattern of it taking a really long time to get past rough-ins. Right? I mean, Mike, I don't know if you felt like that on your house, right? I mean, it felt like you took a while to get past rough-ins. Once you got past rough-ins, you felt like it was more downhill, wasn't it? Like it was way more. I know you're driving, so don't be safe. Obviously, I don't want you like, it was like, holy shit, we lost him.
No, we actually got caught up in drywall. That was the problem we had with the drywall. It took a little while to get to rough-ins as well, but there's a lot of learning going on.
Basically, I consider after drywall, I consider like that to be the downhill. Like when your drywall's in, now it's trim, doors, cabinets, paint, tile, like that stuff is a lot of work, but it can go very quick and it can be very much stacked. So it's really easy to stack people. What we hadn't been doing well was stacking people. And I forgot to tell you what I did with the sheetrock guy, by the way. So it'd probably be important for you to hear. So as they roughed in and all the rough in was done, that was 2 weeks. I had all the rough ins done, all the waterproofing done, outside paint was done. I had outside railings and doors done, all the framings complete. So as they were finishing up rough in, they literally got that done in 5 days. So I'm 2 weeks in, or right around 2.5 weeks in, I got all rough in done. The sheetrock guy came in on a Sunday, 125 sheets of sheetrock. He hung that on, put the first coat on Sunday, and he was done by Wednesday. And then the other crew was actually just pointing the rest of the house up. So that took about 3 work days to get done total, all the sheetrock, everything. It was a very fast hang, much like your new guy probably will be for you, Mike. The new guy you got, so he's really quick and good. But the key is that everything was stacked really close. Like I had the HVAC guy run the ducts in 2 days, and then the electrician was working right behind him while they were doing the plumbing, and I was convincing them all to work together. And this was why I noticed how slow we were going around sheetrock. So sheetrock and before was going very slow. We always were pretty quick once we got past sheetrock. Sometimes I'd see it take 2 months to get to like past sheetrock. And I'm like, that's too slow. What I was able to do on this house this time is I was able to get it done in like 3 weeks roughly, right? And then in a week and a half, I was able to get all the doors trimmed, cabinets, granite, a lot of stuff done. Now I'm 5 weeks in roughly, or actually I'm 5 weeks will be this coming Monday. So I'm about 4.5 weeks in right now. I'll be 5 weeks this coming Monday, and by the following Monday, I'll be on the market 100%. So right at 6 weeks. But the key was I left no room or no air in there. It was like every person, I was thinking, how fast can I get this person in? It was even to the point where we were halfway done the framing, and I talked to the HVAC guy and said, what do you need framed in order to do your HVAC? He's like, if you get all this framed, I can start the HVAC. So I had them frame all that stuff first. They were still completing the framing as the HVAC guy was starting. They were a day or two from being done the framing. So I had them strategically do as much framing so that he could get in as soon as possible and knock it out. And so everything we're doing, it's about not like what normally happens is you finish something and then there's like this little stall, right? There's a couple days, the next guy starts, you hope, right? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. And then he doesn't, then it's even a bigger stall, right? And it starts to compound into being really long. What I was doing is taking like, okay, you're here, you're going to be done on Thursday. How soon can someone come in? Could I get someone on Wednesday to start on HVAC while you're finishing that framing? And he's like, the HVAC guy's like, well, if they got all this framing done, yes, I could start a day early or 2 days early. So that's what I was doing with everything. And I'm still doing it right now. I'm trying to figure out how fast I can get this done. I'm using this as a little bit of a template for me to see how fast every one of my houses should go. So I'm going to just start being part of this now. When I don't have my eye on it, they're taking way too long, like 2.5 months. And it's not super long, but it's, again, it's a month I'm gaining back. Big deal.
Well, how did you get those guys that many different guys to go in there at one time? My guys are saying, well, somebody's up on the first floor doing something, and I'm down in the basement. That's okay, but I don't want 6, 8 people in the house going all over the house, and they're all telling me the same thing.
I've never had anybody say that to me yet, so it's just me.
Maybe I'm just not pushing them enough.
Yeah, dude, I just look at them funny if they say that shit to me. I'm like, hey, dude, that's no big deal, man. I'm going to get someone else to do it. That's how simple it is. If somebody gives me, I can't work in the house because there's people, I just go hire someone else. Because for every person that's whining about Corona right now, there's like 2 people that act like it doesn't exist. They're running around when they don't even wear a mask. Like they're really not worried about it to the point they're in there like just hanging out with each other. They don't even wear a mask, anything. Like most of my contractors act like coronavirus doesn't even exist. Because they're not excuse makers, honestly. They don't make any excuses for anything. They've learned to get around shit and make stuff happen. And I've selected like people over time who only do that. If they are whiners, they complain about shit. Oh, the plumber's in my way. I can't work this way. I'll come back next week. Yeah, man, no problem. Take your stuff with you. That's how simple that is. Take your stuff with you. Have someone else.
Your crews are all Spanish, and they think it just means they want to drink another beer.
It's a Corona, exactly. You give them a lime, and they're okay. You give them a lime and a mask, and they're good. So well, most of my mechanical people are white, so I mean, it's they.
Corona, good. Caramba.
Exactly. The Spanish guys do not care. I have to tell you, they're pretty much warriors. They don't care at all.
I've got also, we have final approval on our deck over at Amphibian. Yeah. So we're desperately seeking a deck builder and a guy to finish up some of the framing and odds and ends and stuff at Bodkin. But we don't want to move somebody that's working at Bodkin off of that job to go build a deck at Amphibian. So we're looking for a separate person to do that.
Well, if it takes too long, I would take the person you have at Bakken and move them to Amphibian. Let me tell you how this works is when you have a house, you get every house, me and Ray talk about this every week, ask Ray, whatever house can finish next that's going to put money in your pocket, put all hands on deck on that house until it's on the market, and then put all hands on deck back on Bakken, right? Because you want to get that off your plate. It's been on your plate too long. So if you can find someone different, spend a day or two trying to do that. But if that person can't start immediately and knock it out in a couple of days, then don't hire them. Get whoever can get in there and have this done in like a week for you. You want it done as soon as possible. You want it on the market. You don't want any more days, right? You want to speed everything up as fast as humanly possible. And it's okay if Bakken slows down for the greater good is that you get a house on the market, right? That's the greater good is get this house complete and get it on the market. Then go right to Bakken. What are you going to lose, a week or something? You know, it's not a big deal to lose a week if you have the accomplishment of finally getting a fibbing on the market and getting it sold. So, and then we'll also talk about punching it out real well. I'll bring some blue tape too, because that's another big piece. Punch it out. Your stuff's usually probably pretty nice from what I've seen, but we'll just make sure it's really tight. So when it goes on the market, you'll be able to get finally, you know, goes on, you get someone pumped about buying it. So I always like every week, me, Michael, and Ray, and all the higher level students I do the one-on-ones with, we're always like, okay, what's your next house? What could you do to focus on it and finish it sooner? Brook for me is my next house. So I've been selectively making sure it goes super fast. And then as soon as Brook's on the market, I'm going to pick the next house and I'm going to go put all my energy on that. Then I'm going to go to the next house, because as long as I got a house finishing every 2 weeks, I'm good, man. All I got to do is a house every 2 weeks to get my 24 a year. If you guys are trying to do 8 a year, then it's roughly one every month and a half, right? It's pretty simple. As long as you got one finishing every month and a half, like that's all you need to really run a great business. And the key to doing it is not taking your, like say Micah's one dude, right? And imagine Micah's striped shirt, and like each of those stripes is a rehab. He has to focus on one stripe on his shirt. He can't focus on all of them or he won't be able to do that. But what really works well is to say that top stripe by his head, that one, we're going to knock that one out quick. And I'm going to even sometimes take guys off one house and put them all on one house, because we're getting ready to do that on the next house, actually, because we just had something come up on one of our houses. So we're going to pull guys who got busted on permits on one of our city houses. So we're going to take the guys from that and put them on a house that was going pretty well and make it go even better. And we're going to finish that even sooner, because I've owned it for like 2 months. So I'm kind of like, okay, let's just knock it out then. Because I also just bought 2 houses recently, so I got some new houses coming up, so I'm okay with it. So the bottom line is, man, it's always what is the next house that you can get on the market and get at the settlement and get cash back in your bank account. That keeps your cash flow feeling good. So I would do it, man. I'd take every person from Bakken. If you could have that house on the market a day sooner, I would do it in a second. So just know there's a reason behind it. I hope I articulated why we think that way. It's all about cash flow. It's all about, you know, finishing one house at a time, and not focusing on doing like a little bit on 5 houses at a time. That's the deficit, right? When you're doing too many houses at once, it really just doesn't work very well. I'm even down now to focusing on 4 houses at a time. With my whole big crew I have, we are only allowed to focus on 1 house per crew, and that's it. And that's me, my uncle, and Tanya, 3 people. So essentially, if you're focusing on more than 1 to 1.5 houses at a time, then you're focusing on too much. And that's you know, and for you guys, if it's your first one doing it in the system, then just focus on 1 at a time. But I would say go amphibian, knock it out, get it done, and then go to and hit up your next thing, which would be, you know, knocking Bakken out and trying to get it past Ruffin so you can start compounding people. Now Bakken, we'll talk about what you can do, and I think Nikki's house is probably close to this too. So you know, you can take and pile people up and just get that house done. So Nikki, or is it Nikki or TJ on? Who's on? If you guys can hear me.
It's me, Mike.
Oh, hey, Nikki. Have you gotten your one little, your house you were doing like just a quick cleanup on? Is that on the market yet?
No.
So there you go. Tell TJ to go and knock that house out. Same thing I was telling him, because you need your money back and you want to get that house off your plate, and things are selling really well right now. So I don't know what's going on.
We changed that up a little bit. I never really talked to you about it.
You said he did what? You broke up some.
We changed up what we were doing. I ran a bunch of numbers on it, and I kind of decided to go with a medium size rehab in the kitchen and the bathroom.
What are you gonna sell it for?
I'm thinking I could get like 220, 225.
Yeah, you might be able to. I don't know. Okay. But either way, you need to finish that one and get it off your plate, because that's the fastest one you could finish. Maybe it is. I don't know now. If you add that much work, it might be.
17th, we're he just hung cabinets today, so we're having the granite measured tomorrow, and he's got to do doors and trim there, and then we can kind of go over to the other one, back to the other one, because I'm kind of running out of money anyway, so I got to put my money in.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was getting ready to tell you. That's why you're running out.
Huh?
That's why you're running out, because you're doing 2 at a time instead of like, if you would have just finished that one and did what I told you and had like 10K or 15K, knocked it out, you'd be going to settlement soon on it. You'd probably be under contract and getting your money back in like 2 weeks, and then it wouldn't have taken you any time. So that's whenever you're doing whatever you do, it always has to fit with the cash availability, right? So you don't, because me, Ray, and I'm telling you, I just had this problem like, I don't know, 4 weeks ago where I was running out of cash. Ray had it like in October or November where he was running out of cash. When he was in Costa Rica, did you notice I bought him dinner twice? Because he was like, I ain't got no money, Mike. Can you buy me dinner? And I was like, I took care of him. I made sure they ate.
Thank you, actually.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't tell him that it was Radar the dog, that I secretly beat in the head. But no, I mean, so look, I mean, even people who have successful track records run out of cash. But what me and him work on, and Michael Chow, all of us are always working on, is like, how do we strategically do our deals so we can kind of keep deals flowing, right? Keep stuff coming in and deals going out. So it's picking a house. If you got like 17th, and I forgot the name of the other one, it's like Furnace Branch or something. So if you got those 2, you got to pick which one can I finish the fastest, and then go put all your energy into that one. And when it's on the market, then go put all your energy into the next one. And which almost worked out perfectly when you had all the trouble with the permits, because it almost gave you the perfect time to go finish that house, knock it out, get it on the market. You'd probably be a couple weeks into settling right now, and getting your money in like 2 to 3 weeks max, which would make a big difference. I know for me, we had to do this about 4 weeks ago, and when my 2 houses settled, I got rich again because I had a lot of cash in them, and it got me to the place where I was definitely running into a cash crunch because I bought too many houses, but it wasn't buying too many; it was working on too many of them evenly. Right. I think you disproportionately have to pick which one are you going to focus on, right? Okay, this is the one I'm going to focus on because it's the most likely to get done the quickest. I know the one that was much easier, obviously, would have been the one that would have got done the quickest. And then 17th can get knocked out pretty soon too. So either way, I mean, I would think about that now. The same thing I was telling to Jim. I would figure out like, what is your house that you can get done the quickest and get it on the market? And I would try to like put all your energy into that. When it's done, it'll stress you out less if you kind of think of one at a time and then go right to the next one. And when you're, where you are, what you are now, then if that one's done, then you'll have money available to start looking for your next deal. You can't do that though until some of these get cleared up. And you'll probably end up in a situation like I was in recently. I'm actually in a situation where I have no money to buy a house. First time in many years. So I settled 2 houses in the last week. So, and I'm waiting for that just cash. So I'm like, I just bought 2 houses. But I literally didn't have the money to buy houses like a week ago. I mean, I kind of had it if I'd have went and stole it from another account or something, but I guess I could have robbed Peter to pay Paul, but I just wasn't all that pumped to do it. So I was softly looking. But now I've got a little money back, and I got 5 houses under contract. So in the next 30 days, I should be pretty financially in the right place to buy more homes and get, but now the key is I got to get through them. Anytime I focus on too many and I don't really hone my attention in, my money gets all messed up. It drags everything out and makes everything go slower, right? And I think mentally we just need completion on something, right? So getting like that other house complete and on the market, best thing to do, right? And then going to the next house, getting that completed on the market, best thing you can do. So think about it. I mean, obviously, you guys make any of those choices, but I'm just giving you some food for thought on those. How about anything else I can help with? Anyone who's got it sounds like you guys got a couple things going. I know Micah's looking for a deal. If anyone has a deal in the group, he's currently looking for his next flip, and Sean's getting ready to start hers. And I think who's the number down the bottom? I'll let Jim and Nancy. Yeah, they'll be looking for a deal soon.
We're always looking for a deal.
I told Nancy to stop doing that today, actually.
Well, we've been defeated on 2 in the last 2.5 weeks.
You're not ready to buy.
One we won, but
yeah, you'll never win when you're not ready to buy.
One we actually were the winners. We produced an offer that was accepted tentatively, but then there was wrangling over the deposit. And we think that was God at work because we really didn't need to get another house now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
It was a big one and complicated, so.
Yeah, just pass on anything like that. Don't even bid on stuff like that. The discipline of not putting, that's complete. So every time you spend, I was telling Nancy this today, we talked earlier, and I was like, when you spend any energy on looking for deals when you don't need them really, it's basically a waste of time. And also, it's a real reason it's mostly a waste of time is when in your heart, you know, you kind of don't need it, like, especially like something you're not in the mood to do, you won't fight hard enough to actually win it. Like, you rarely ever will win a house that you should be buying when you don't need it. It's just the way it is. When you need a house and everything's 100% clear and you're like, my money's right, I'm ready to buy something, my contractors are right, and I'm 100% confident, you will go after it aggressively enough to win. But when you're kind of got like your toe in the water, you rarely ever win deals. I know for me, when my toe's in the water, I had my toe in the water like 2-3 weeks ago. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm still buying deals. Well, I knew I was a little tight on cash, so my toe was in the water, and I lost 2 deals that I could have bought that I was just slow on. I just really seriously, like, actually, funny enough, the deal I bought today, wholesaler, this is a great story. I bought one from a wholesaler today that I could have bought off the MLS myself 2.5 weeks ago, and they got it instead. And then I bought it from them. I bought it from them from a cheaper price than I was going to buy it off the MLS for. So I don't know how that worked out, but they must have got a deal on it. But I mean, anyhow, the whole point of what I'm saying is my toe was in the water 2.5 weeks ago when I seen that deal, and I was slow on it. I didn't bid on it. And next thing I know, I'm like, hey, that's pretty nice, actually. I might like that one. It's in a good neighborhood. And I go to bid on it. It's like, oh, pending. And I'm like, oh, you bitch. I was like, hey, because my toe was in the water and I wasn't aggressive. And because I didn't really have the money for it at the time. 2.5 weeks later, I got 2 settlements that happened. Now I'm rich again, right? You know, Daddy's got some dollars and I'm like all rich. And now I'm like, oh, now I want the deal. So I kind of, you know, it worked out well. I was going to pay like 90 for it, and I got it for 82, 81.6 from them. So it's a pretty decent deal. Greatest deal ever, but it's definitely good enough to keep my guys busy. And it's in a good area with some upsides. I'm happy with that because the comps are actually pretty high. My house is not as good as the comps, but some comps are really high in the neighborhood. So I'm thinking I'll probably sell for really good money in that area because people are paying insane numbers right now. So we'll see. But yeah, interesting, right? I mean, I should have won that deal all day long. The guy who won it from me is my old acquisitions guy. So I just bought it back from him. I don't know what he's making on it. He must not be making a lot because he had it out for 99. He sold it to me for 81.6. I think he probably was getting low showings on it, and he was getting dangerously close to. He already was 2 weeks into it, so he's like, I got to move this thing. So he probably just made like a couple grand on it or something. Yeah.
Well, we shouldn't be unmotivated buyers.
Yeah,
you should be motivated buyers.
Well, you shouldn't be motivated buyers, but you should be aggressive buyers when you are ready to buy. And meaning like you don't mess around, you're quick, you kind of fight for deals. You don't want to be motivated to the point where you're stupid and paying too much money, but you certainly want to be at the place where you aggressively go after things quickly because slowness is what makes you lose deals. So like when your toes in the water, you'll look at a deal and you'll be like, yeah, I kind of like that, you know, and then you'll check it out 2 days later and you're like, yeah, let me think about some more. You know what? I'm gonna go check that out on Saturday. And it's like Wednesday. Like, dude, that deal's never around. If that was actually a good deal, there's zero chance that's going to be sitting and waiting for you on Saturday. Like aggressively, right. I see a deal, and when I'm aggressive about it, I see a deal now, and I'm like, hey guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to do the call from my car because I'm going. Or no, legitimately, like after this call's done at like 7:30 at night, 8 o'clock at night, I would get my car and go see it, or I go see it at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's aggressive. And when I do that, I take my computer with me, my tape measure with me. I figure out the layout, everything. If the numbers are good and I know I'm going to be able to make a strong offer on it, like I know it's listed for 80 and I can offer 80 to 90 on it, then I know that's going to be a strong offer. It might get accepted. And the agent's already told me they'll write for me. And I have all this advantage, by the way. If that's the case, then I'm going to go out there and I'm going to take my computer out there. I'm going to run a budget. I'm going to do the layout in my head. And I'm going to make sure it all works. And I'm going to, like on the phone, standing at the house, I'm going to call the agent and say, hey, can we get this deal done? Like that's how the speed you need to do it. Mike, actually for you too, and I don't know if I told you about this. I'm sure you've heard it before, but one of the big advantages since you're a realtor is for you not to actually write the offer. In certain situations, in many situations, if you can get the agent to write for you is actually probably the biggest way I'm getting stuff done right now. And then you know, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's a waste of money and time, like HUDs generally doesn't matter. But I had one recently that I think I'm going to get, and the agent basically had it off HUD where you couldn't bid on it. And I called her, I sent her an email personally and told her I'd be writing a really strong offer. And she's like, hey, I can get it pushed through for you. She's like, I can get it done for you. And I was
another idea there. Another idea there, when they're not allowed to make both sides, is they're allowed to refer out. So they refer back. So I did that with an agent. She's like, I'm not allowed to make it. So there's no motivation there. I said, what about referring to somebody, getting a huge referral fee, and that worked. But the problem is I didn't want the house. So that was that one that I went and looked at when you were on the phone with me that day. I forget where it was.
So that was out of timing though. So keep in mind when you go the way I kind of, let me finish how I do it, because I kind of told you the beginning part, right? I see a house, I love it. I think the number's good from what I can see in my computer. I get out there ready to make an offer, but I got to sit there as long as it takes for me to, okay, I can get a master bedroom, I can get the layout right. Then I do my line item budget on my laptop, the one I'm on right now. I just pull it out, start doing that. I can do all that in like 20, 30 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, this deal makes sense. Then I get on the phone with the agent and hey, let's work this out. Because I don't want to be calling them and, pumping them up a bunch and then, because I don't want to start getting known for like, oh, that's the guy that always calls me and never follows through. Right? When I call them, I literally am ready to do the deal. So sometimes I call them and they're like, hey, I already sold to someone else and I wasted my time. Not a big deal, because like often those deals will come back on the market and I'll get them then. But most of the time we're good to go. I mean, if you're going to call, you might call and just say, hey, is that property still available? Okay, it's fully available. Let me ask you if I was able to get you a good offer in on this, is this something would you be okay writing it for us? Cause I'm an agent, but I don't write offers. I just have my license to sell my flips kind of thing. I don't know. I just tell them whatever your story is going to be. Most of the time they're like, okay, no problem. And then, all right, cool. I'll go look at it now and I'll let you know. So I don't lock myself in a corner too much. That way, if it doesn't work out, they're not like, hey, I thought we were doing this thing. Right. Because I don't want to pump them up and then start to, mess up my credibility essentially. Right. So I kind of, if I get out and I like the deal and like nothing weird's going on with the street, the neighborhood, any of those things, and the deal starts to make financial sense, then I'm getting out there saying, hey, look, I'm going to be here and I'm really decisive about it. And let's make it happen kind of thing. And then once I know I want the deal for sure and it all works out, then I get on with the agent and try to get them to write for me. And I like anything you can do. So here's the way we do it is if they say, no, I can't do it, then I'll say, hey, do you have an assistant that can write for me? Do you have someone on your team you can write? Do you have someone in your office? I found that someone that they know and like is almost as powerful as them writing. Because they don't do it for the money, Mike. I always thought they did it for the money, but the high level understanding I've gained over the last year and a half, they don't do it for the money. They do it because they like people. They're high eyes, right? Like how you want to help a friend out, right? How many friends have you helped out? If I called you up and said, Mike, I see you got this listing, man. I'd really like to buy it, man. Can you hook me up, man? I'll let you know, whatever. You would do it as a friend, right? I mean, if you could make 2 commissions, that would be fantastic too. But, you would definitely be giving me some, extra little nudge because we like each other. And I do it personally, right? I mean, I'm not immune to it either. I'll help somebody out if I like them. I'll say, look, man, here's how you win. Here's the playbook, right? I'll give them the playbook because I want them to win because I know I like working with them. And so a lot of times they're doing it because they like the people. So if you get someone that just they like and they want to win, then it's influence, right? It starts to create influence and that agent will start pushing for you. And essentially what it's doing, it's making that one offer out of the 8 or 10 offers they have stand out. And if they're writing both sides, then that offer really stands out. I mean, people usually almost push me into doing what's necessary to win. I've even seen them take the house and not accept new offers. Like they'll take mine and say, I think I can get this done. And they'll take and put it under contract or they'll take it off the market temporarily. And then they'll go try to push my contract through. I've actually seen them do that, right? I'm not telling them to do that, but I've seen them do that because like, they're just like, look, they really get aggressive about it. But I never mention money because if I mention the money piece of it, it makes it feel slimy and like not cool, right? So the money is not why they do it. The money just happens to be like a little side bonus that no one complains about. They do it because you say, hey man, can you do me a favor? I really appreciate it, right? They do it because they want to help you. And in the money piece, they know subconsciously or consciously they're getting the money. But if you mention it or talk about it, like, hey man, you could get the other commission, it instantly triggers like, oh shit, is this okay to do? Oh man, I got to check with my broker, right? I mean, but if I'm just like, hey, could you do me a favor and write the offer for me? I don't even mention the money. They're like, well, who's collecting the commission? I'm like, it doesn't matter to me. Of course you can. Like I'm an agent, but I don't look to collect the commission. I'm just looking to get the house so I can, rehab it. They're like, okay, that's fine. Just like, that's it. That's how, I mean, it's just super laid back. And when it matters and when you know that agent has some influence. A HUD deal, they have no influence. So it's not going to help you any to have a HUD deal, right? Because they don't really have any influence.
I have a deal to talk through with you. I don't know if we should do it offline or not. I think that might be interesting for everybody else. It's one of my brokers. My broker one of the agents could not sell a deal because it really needed work, and it was the person's like 3 months back on their mortgage, so it's going to enter into foreclosure here in a second. So he called me. He said, it's out of the listing. Do you want to look at it to flip it? And I said, I don't think the numbers are going to work to flip it. And then I just got to thinking. I said, let me talk to the seller. And I talked to the seller today. And I said, you willing to let me get put under contract and then go the short sale route, worst case scenario? And so that's going to happen tonight. So I'm going to at least get a listing. But what I'm thinking about doing is maybe taking it subject to.
You can't subject to because you're going to put a lot of your cash out.
No, I won't put any cash out to do subject to. I'll have transfer taxes. That's it. You know
what
what I mean?
Transfer taxes would you have? You mean to file the deed? You're saying? I mean to file your contract?
Yeah, file the. Well, should I do?
You got to catch up. You got to catch up the back payments and all the fees and penalties.
Right. So it's like $4 or $5 grand to do that.
The house need any work?
My needs probably 20, and that's let's run the numbers. 185 plus 5 is 190. Right, because she has 185 and 5 to catch it up, and there's 25 to put it back on the market at 250. Like the margin, the normal flip margins aren't there, but like because of it not needing that much work, and I can do it quickly. The question is, should I go subject to, or should I get it under contract as a listing agent and then make an offer? Like, should I have one of my buddies list it? You met James. Have James list it. You'd be a listing agent, and I come in and make an offer like 20, 30 below. And try to get it through that way, and then actually make more money. Yeah, short sale. Short
sale will probably be your best bet. You can buy it as a short sale person. Your LLC can buy it whether you're the agent or not. So you can figure that out. Yeah, you can have Christine buy it, and anyone that don't have to. You can buy it as short sale.
I just wasn't sure it'd look like a conflict of interest, or like they would. Of course, you're offering low. You're trying to buy and make a ton of money. I don't want the lender to look at it that way. Do they typically?
They're kind of like, there's a bunch of people that don't know, one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing most of the time because it's like, it's going through a bunch of like trolls in California that don't know what's happening. They're just trying to get their money back. I personally would not do a subject to where you fix it up just because there's a lot of foreclosure laws and they kind of really, I think they're pretty loose and I've never heard anybody getting in trouble. But what they were actually formed for was when you buy something when someone's in foreclosure and you'd have to get that ownership taken from them and you can't switch that ownership over with a subject to. You really are just going to have paperwork. Problem is though, they were in foreclosure, then you might fall into some weird shit that I would probably stay with. So I wouldn't, plus I don't want to have 30K in the deal with a person who they could just be like, screw you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but if we did transfer deeds and leave the loan in place, I just did one of these for a Latino. We left the loan in place. We transferred the deed. Everything's looking good, but I would have to I'd have to make the lender happy by paying them up, And then I'm on title.
Yeah, but if you're paying the lender off, then I'm confused at how that's any different than just buying a deal. Why don't we just buy a deal? It makes sense. Why buy a deal? It doesn't make sense.
Well, no, it just has to go through the short sale process is all.
Exactly. And look, the numbers don't make sense, then there's no way to make it make sense by doing like a subject to, or subject twos only work when the numbers make sense.
Yeah.
So, and if they're behind, you're putting a lot of cash out for very little in return.
The other idea just run by is to lien the property to rent. Let's say it takes 20 grand to renovate it. I bring my guys in there. We renovate it. It costs me 25, but I list it, sell it, and every dollar above and beyond what I put into it, and lien the property, I keep because I just increase my loan. Increase my loan. I make it a 35, 55,000, whatever. I make it a huge loan amount to lien all the equity, and then I list it and I'm paid off on the HUD.
What is he trying to buy it for? How much is it going to buy it for?
Well, she has 185.
And what are you going to sell it for when you put 25 into it?
Yeah, so it'd be like 240, 250.
Like for sure?
That just depends what I do to it. So if I put 25, I don't finish the basement, then it would not be a ton of margin, maybe 10,000, but also a commission as well.
I mean, it seems risky for 10 grand. I mean, it just seems like you're putting a lot of money at risk. It's a lot of your cash too, because you can't go to like a hard money lender. You got to pull that cash like out of your account.
Yeah, I I was gonna put just an IRA and lean it in second position, and then use that money, and then make the margin on the money. It's complex.
Okay, I mean, no, I get it completely, dude. I've done some of the most complex deals ever. I just don't.
Yeah.
The part that's really simple that you're missing, there's no equity or profit in the deal. That's the part that you're like, you're thinking of like these super complex ways to get a deal done, but you're not really thinking about what matters, making profit, right? Getting a deal done is not what you're trying to do right now. You're trying to make money. There's no guaranteed way for you to make money on this. And you have the variable of a unsavory character that doesn't like to pay their mortgage and is like literally could just at any point be like, F you, I don't like this deal, I'm getting a lawyer, right? And then, you know, I don't like the way this is going down. And would likely win, and you would likely be in trouble for because they were in foreclosure. So like they could pull a couple cards on you that you would not be able to beat, like, period. Now, and you just don't know, right? I mean, we like to trust people, but if they can't pay their mortgage, then they kind of not somebody I would trust, honestly. It might be someone you just end up in a weird spot with. So personally, not for 10 grand. If you're like, Mike, I can make 40 or 50, different story, right? And okay, now the risk becomes like acceptable because you have an upside. The problem is you're taking a risk. You're not even getting like a return on your money that's like equal.
So so based on this conversation, we'll take the listing, list it, and then put an offer in on it and see if we get the lender to say, okay.
The short sale, you're saying? Yeah, you should start the short sale. I like starting the short sale, and that's what I normally do when people owe more than I think I want to pay, as I just put it out on the market. And then look, when you put it on the market, you might just end up selling it, right? And maybe you don't get the short sale, maybe someone else does. Like half the time, well, about 25% of the time, you'll get the short sale, and then the other half the time, or 75% of the time, someone else will get it. But either way, you get a commission. It all works out, right? So it's just a different way of going about it. And then if, you know, the bank goes for a while, and it's going to be long-winded, but if the bank goes for a while, then you might get it at a price that makes some sense. Sounds like you need to get it about 20K cheaper, right, for it to really start being like a reasonable deal.
Yeah, I was thinking 35, and I told her, cheaper. You know, she's probably gonna lose. You know, she's probably gonna get a 1099 for $5 grand. So it's better than
She might get a 1099. You can negotiate that out in the wholesale. I mean, I've negotiated that almost every time I've done a short sale.
I was going to ask you if it was negotiable. I wasn't sure if the lender negotiated.
So last short sale I did, and this was a couple years ago, I did it for my realtor. And essentially, I didn't do it personally, but I kind of guided him through what to say and how to do it and hooked him up with the right people. Because I usually just hire a professional negotiator. I've used this guy named Joe Goldbaum or something. I'll get his number if you want. But he's doing a great job. So he's, you know, he doesn't charge anything either. He basically just takes it, like either people pay it or he'll like get the title work or something. So he doesn't actually charge you any money up front. But what we were able to do is I was able to get and convince the bank to give him 20 grand to move out and not report it to his credit report, no 1099. So all those things were possible, and they gladly did it because it was deed in lieu of foreclosure. And, you know, and honestly, he gave them a broom swept house and they didn't have to go through foreclosing. And foreclosure would have taken them a couple of years. And with what I know, it would have taken them about 8 years. I've had 2 people since I've been in the game that I've taught how to go over 9 years in a foreclosure, live in their home for 9 years before the police made them physically leave. So, yeah, I know how to work the system big time. But when it comes to short sales, like, so I've convinced some people to do some pretty wild stuff. Darshan and all them who's not on the call are really genius at getting the number down. I've never been a fan. I've been good at getting a number where I can pay. Darshan's good at getting a number 25 to 50K less than I would pay. I never knew about that part because I never really thought about like, oh, how do I get it 50K cheaper? My brain didn't go there. You know what I mean? I get to where I'll pay and I'm all happy and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Never thought about getting it 50K less. That's what him and Akil and Valerie are very good at. They're very good at that, but it takes them a very long time to do it. Sometimes 6 months to 18 months, and they're in the long con for sure. So I usually just focus on you can work almost anything out at the bank. The bank's going to say, oh, we want you to bring money to the table. The last deal we did, they were like, oh, well, you know, we want you to pay money if we're going to take this big of a loss. So I had somebody had a condo over in Middle River, and she bought it for $140,000. It was worth 40. Right? I don't know how that's. Don't ask me how, but it was literally the comps are 40 or 50K, and she bet $140K mortgage on it. And we convinced them to take I think the offer we got on it was like 45K. We convinced them to take the 45K, but they're like, we want you to bring $20,000 to the table for us to take this big of a loss. So eventually we ended up getting it down, and she gave them $1,500. They didn't report it to her credit, and that was it. which was pretty good when you consider the fact that it was like 140K, and she didn't have to get in foreclosure because she had credit and she didn't want to mess her credit up. It was important that her credit didn't get, she was moving to New York, and it was important that her credit didn't get messed up. So, I mean, you can get a lot of cool stuff done. You just tell the bank what you want when you're negotiating with them. And if the 10
I feel like that's what I want to take it for, because I really don't learn well listening or reading. I have to do stuff. I remember everything. I have to do it. It's one of those things where I feel like I want to do it, if nothing else. Try just to be able to come back and be like, here's how it works.
Well, I would recommend you hire a negotiator, because the negotiator do all the heavy lifting. And then short sales done incorrectly are basically a waste of time. And they're like, I tried to do one all myself a few times, and it did not work very well. It is a boatload of paperwork and headaches and craziness. But so I get a short sale negotiator. You can get one. It don't cost any money. You can talk to Darshan. He might be willing to do it for you. So he's done it for some other people for us. So if you talk with him, you might be willing to do it. If not, I'll give you the other guy's number, Joe something, and either one of those two can do it for you. But you'll still have all the power, and you'll still, you'll tell them, you'll strategize with them. Yeah, Darshan, I'll send it to you. His number's on there, but call him first, and if he doesn't want to do it, then ask I'll give you the other guy. I know he'll do it for sure. That's all he does. So you just don't want to do the heavy lifting of a short sale, right? Because that's a little much.
No.
That's like being whole, like calling people all day and messing with people, and they send you through loops and stuff. And God, I can't even imagine with Corona.
Yeah.
You're probably getting put through the Corona loop right now. Yeah, it's brutal. So I don't mess with short sales for that reason, because they're time eaters, and I just don't need a deal that badly. I kind of stay in my lane, finding deals the way that works. MLS right now, I mean, I just got my second deal in the MLS in the last 2 weeks. One was from a wholesaler, but it was on the MLS.
Yeah, I'm still looking for another deal. This isn't really a deal to do per se. It's just one that's like sort of like on the side while we're looking for a real deal to do. Because no money comes out of the pocket to do it if we don't take title. We just list it and then offer.
Are you open? Are you looking? Well, obviously you're looking in like Hamilton, Overley, and all that, right? Because I seen you looked at the one that we talked about, Rosalie. Yeah, because that's kind of the area. If you bring that area in the Middle River, and you're like Middle River, basically all around you, and you bring that area in, there's usually a lot available in the MLS and wholesalers, Hot Home Store. I just picked up one on Wilshire, I guess is what it's called. It's right. It's in Gardenville, 21206, and I picked up for like 111K. It needs 40K in work, and it's worth like 220, 225. So it's a solid deal, but it's an easy deal, very easy one. The other one I picked up is I picked up for 82 or 81.6, and it needs 70K in work, and it'll be worth 220. So it's pretty solid also. Basically 150 into 220. So that'll be about a 40K deal, 35K, something like that. It won't be like a super deal. But as fast as I'm getting them done right now, if I can maintain that pace, I can actually bring more profit.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to do either one, because I'd like to keep it within, I try to keep it within 15, 20 minutes of the house because it's pristine, But
sure.
If we got to go further.
That's about 15, 20 minutes away, right? I mean, that's roughly 15, 20 minutes.
What's the zip code?
21206 is right next to where you were on that Rosalie. It's like a mile and a half away from where you were on Rosalie.
Yeah, and I really want to use this new lender there too. They're 9-1, and they don't have a lot of junk fees, and I'd like to just get a relationship going with them. It'd be a good deal to do with them.
What did they ask you to put in?
They want 20.
20%.
20%.
Yeah. Okay.
9-1. But I've got a lot of people who like. Yeah, it's good, and I got people that will lend their second. Will lend their IRA at a second. For the difference, so I don't bring much out.
And 9-1 is really cheap right now. I know you were getting some really low rates from the banks, but 9-1 is really cheap for hard money.
Well, they won't
because they're.
Yeah, I love them. They're 25% down, and they're like 4.98, and they're awesome. They're really awesome. But
are they still lending? Oh, they
won't
do City. Oh wow!
I got my PPP stuff done with them in like 2 hours. It was amazing.
What is your PPP stuff? What does that mean?
The whatever the government loan was, the PPP.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Because the M&T Bank, I couldn't even apply with them. It was so like their system was so slow and backed up. So I thought of these guys, and they're like, yeah, send us everything over. They asked me for like 2 things. I had it back to them, and then by the end of the day, I couldn't believe it. It was approved, and money was in the bank the next day. So
oh wow,
they're really really
that's
good.
messed
But
up.
they won't do Baltimore City
Do you keep your money with them?
because they don't. I'm trying to because I like them so much. You know, I'm trying to give them more.
Yeah, yeah, I got it.
It's just
I mean,
my books are all synced with M&T.
Oh, got it.
I
I
go
got
through
it.
the process of syncing my books, you know, the QuickBooks and everything.
Mm,
So
okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I got to build a banking relationship. I've been bad about that. I just work with SunTrust, who sucks and doesn't really bring me any value, and they try to get me for $15 every 2 seconds, which makes
I'll make
me
a strong
frustrated.
I'll make a good introduction to this girl Tanya, and if it's outside of the city, yeah, they're the best.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do
More-
anything where I got to put 25% down because my cash doesn't go far enough if I do it that way. So
Yeah,
I pay 10 and 2, and I'm okay paying 10 and 2 because they give me most of the money. I rarely bring very little money in. I probably in each deal I have like 20 grand in total. Like that's like everything. And so if I do 25% down, the same deal would need 40 or 50, meaning that by the time my money would run short like in half the time. So instead of being able to do 7 or 8 houses at a time, I could probably only do 3 to 5 at a time. So over a year, that savings of like whatever the difference at, let's call that a couple, like $2,000 a deal, cost me like 8 to 10 deals a year I can't do. So I'm losing like I don't know, 200 grand to save like 30. It's a math model. That's why I do it that way. So personally, you know, for me, it's all about not having a lot of cash out. But if you have private investors that are making the difference up, that's fine too, and that works. I just don't like doing that. I like using my own cash. So I don't have to chase people around. And sometimes people have a lot of like people want to invest and do stuff like that.
It's just an idea for everybody else too. Like if people are like, I want to get into it, but I don't know where to start. If you ask them if they've got an IRA, then they can put their money. Like you met James, he's gonna put 30 into it. Right, he's just supposed to like get a feel for it. Now he's vested in coming and checking everything out. He'll learn, and we'll leverage his money while he learns. It's a big win-win. You know, he can like learn on the job. He can meet the contractors. He can learn the order of things.
Yeah. What does he pay you for? What are you paying him to use 30K?
So you were talking earlier about like what partnerships aren't good, and I 100% agree because I've tried a lot of them. They work. You have to have very like-minded people for that to work. If you get anyone greedy and doesn't understand your process, they think you're ripping them off. It just never works. So I either offer commissions, I either offer them profit share, or I offer them like 10 to 15%, no points. Just depends on.
So think about what you're doing though. So you're basically giving up a huge chunk of your profit or commission or whatever you're giving them. In order to save like $2,000 that you could do, if you went and paid 10 and 2, you could just put in your own cash up because you wouldn't need hardly any of your own cash to do it.
Well, I wouldn't be able to get into the deal if I have like right now until this one sells. I won't be able to get into another deal without them.
Sure. So then next thing, so you got it from cash flow standpoint. So then the next thing you want to figure out is can you get an equity line? Can you get some of your own cash, like 150K from an equity line, from whatever, right? Because if you can get some of your own cash, then you could be doing a couple time. But that's where that 10 and 2 person comes in, by the way, or someone, you know, I don't care if you're paying 13 and 3 if they're not going to make you put a bunch of money in, but putting a bunch of money in to save some commission or some points and fees is, you know, and then you bring in a partner. You just have to run the math. The math generally doesn't work. Also, you got to be wary, like as much as you think everybody's super cool, you know, that you're introducing them to your contractors and all that. I mean, then the next thing you know, they're using your contractors. I had that happen many times when I partnered with people in the past. And there's like all of a sudden they flips with me. And now all of a sudden my contractor's like, I'm busy. I'm working for this other guy. And I'm like, how'd that happen? Like, you know, then I fired a guy. And because I'm like, hey, you leave and go work for someone else. And they're like, oh, what do you mean you don't want me doing any more work? No, I just replaced you. I just ran a funnel and replaced you. And that's how I do it. But I mean, it's, you know, they forced me to do that, unfortunately, because, you know, they put me in a spot where they go work for someone else. But often the thing is bringing a partner in. So here's why, no matter if you can get your BFF and partner, it doesn't make sense, you got to do double the work to make the money. And you think, oh, well, there'll be synergy, more work done. Two people never get more work done. You know, you've heard the story, like two people, like 1 + 1 = 3 if you have synergy. Like, that's a bunch of bullshit. 1 + 1 in house flipping equals like 1.5, like bottom line. And most of the time it equals like 1 at best, but in a really good scenario, it equals 1.5. Me and my partner equaled 1.5 we made a ton of money and did a lot of houses. The reason why is because often when we want to partner with people is because we want to more hang out with them. And it's lonely to do it by yourself if you don't have like a team or someone you're working with and you're just kind of by yourself. But when you get like Christina and you get other people involved, and it can be less lonely, right? And then you get to keep all the money, and you know, it stays within the family essentially, right? It's not being divvied up, because this shit's too hard to be giving half the money away or a quarter of the money. It really is big time. And I can tell you, I know a lot of like really successful flippers. A guy named Andrew Cordy is a guy that I spent some time with about 6 years ago, and he's doing 100 houses a year. And he was really amazing at like how he was one of the guys I learned about stacking contractors and doing stuff. And he really showed me, because he was doing 100 houses a year at the time. I think I was doing about the same, but he had some cool techniques he was using. But the one thing he was doing, and why he was doing 100 houses a year, is that he had private investors who put all the money up for his deals, and he would give them 30%. In that model, I ran those numbers. I'm like, Andrew, that model's tight, man. How do you make that work? He's like, it's tough. And he's since then, about 2-3 years ago, went out of business, and apparently deadbeated a bunch of people and did a lot of people, when I say his name, are like, shit, I don't know what he did to him personally, but he just apparently probably ended up running off with a bunch of people's money or something, because like the bottom line is, and even that was them putting all the money up. So keep in mind, they would put 100% of the money up. He'd give them 30%. So meaning they had no hard money costs. So that actually offsets quite well, because what I found is about 20 to 25% of your profit will equal the hard money cost. So if someone was putting all the money up for the whole deal and you gave them 20 or 25%, that's about paying a hard money lender. But it's actually better for you, because you always have to pay your hard money lender no matter how your deal turns out. But if you had a partner that was only taking 25% and putting all the money up, that's the best deal you can possibly get, because when a deal makes no money, they get nothing, and they only get 25%. So their effective rate is much lower than a hard money lender would even be. So hard money gets paid every time, right? They don't never get paid. Because
I like it.
Yes. But yeah, when you give them the profit, you can do that. But any way you look at it, when you win, you're giving up big chunks of your money. So, you know, the best thing you can always do is get to your own cash and get the partnerships out. Partnerships keep you down, essentially. They don't let you rise up to be the person you're meant to be. They keep you down. It's almost like having a security blanket or something. I had one for 6 years, man. So I'm not talking any crap. I did 600 deals with a partner, and honestly, it was like some freeing stuff when I got away from it and started like taking control myself and really getting control of everything. It really felt great. So, I mean, look, I'm not saying some of you guys in the group shouldn't partner with each other or do a deal together, but no marriages, no, like, we're going to work together forever. Like, do a deal or two together with someone and let it be nothing more than that. And you shouldn't do it at the cost of you not doing your next deal, right? Or getting overwhelmed and making your deal suck. Because that's often what happens when you start getting partners. See, when you get partners, there's no limit to how many deals you can do, which is a bad thing, by the way. We need a control. We need something that says, hey, you shouldn't be doing any more deals, right? You don't have the time and manpower to do any more deals. With partners, there's no limitations. That's how we got to 150 deals a year. The year we did 150, it was about 103 rehabs, and the rest were wholesale deals. Was one of the least profitable years we ever had. And because we had a bunch of those deals, we had money partners. And that's how we got to so many deals. The coming year after that, I think we cut back to like 120 and didn't do any partnerships, and our income was over $1 million. So it was like a really great year. But, you know, and also we were way $1 million over budget that year with partners, because we were just stretching beyond what we were capable of doing. So something to keep in mind. So I want to talk to everyone about, let's see if I can find, so we're working on some budgeting stuff. I know for everyone who's on the call now, we've got a lot of the regular people on, and we're going to be doing a lot of like what's called job costing. Is anybody on the call? Like, how's everybody on the call, like, keeping their numbers now? So anyone, I know Shauna, you'll be doing a rehab soon. Gloria, you've been doing a rehab. Nikki, David's starting his rehab. Actually, we'll be starting soon. And Samira, you've done a rehab. Marlo, you've done one rehab. Brian, you've done them in the past. Kim, you've done some in the past. Tell me how you guys are keeping your numbers now. Like, what are you guys doing to know where you are, like on what you're spending on your rehab? Anyone wants to chime in? I mean, you got to have some way of knowing, I guess, right?
I sync everything with QuickBooks and Quicken, and I just label every transaction, and that's any given moment I can know pretty much to the penny. But what you're talking about, tracking it week by week by week, would be new for me and takes some more discipline.
Mm-hmm. Do you just kind of do it at the end, and that way you can figure out what you made or didn't make?
No, I just do it along the way. Like I did it the other day, and I realized we're coming up close on getting budget.
Yeah.
It's a conversation I want to have with you because now I'm getting the odds and ends area of the jobs is starting to get expensive because I can't go like it's hard for me to negotiate. It's hard for me to negotiate. Like I love being able to plug in numbers and seeing values and negotiating based on that. But when it gets into like I don't know, just like little odds and ends.
Yeah, that's
how many guys, how many days.
That's the contingency, and that's also going to be like I have punch out line items in our budget. And then look, if you end up spending a couple extra grand to make this house right, you'll get it back all day. So if you have to go 3-5K over budget, whatever it is, then do it because you can't. One thing you can't do is be like, hey, we're at budget, F it, I'm not going to finish because that would end up costing you. And you save $3 grand and it costs you 10 or 20 grand when you sell it. So you lose all your upside. So a lot of people think that way, or maybe sometimes they just run out of money, right? And they get really tight on money. And that happens quite often. I've done that a bunch of times where I've kind of stopped almost short and didn't finish. So if you know you're getting close, as long as you have that money or that capacity, just make it right, man. Make your house perfect, get it on the market. And then right now with what's going on, I have no doubt you're going to sell it quickly and you're going to be able to drive it up to whatever that value is, probably above what the value actually is. And hopefully our next conversation is going to be like, how do we get it to appraise because there's no comps? That would be a cool conversation to have too. And we'll work on that. But, let's get it sold first and get it on the market. But getting an A+ is big. So you're doing Quicking, you said, and QuickBooks. Okay. So you just entered in, what do you have like a routine or is you just entered in when you think about it?
At least once a week I'm going in there and I do that. I'm a nerd like that. All my personal stuff gets labeled too. So I always want to know how much I'm spending on everything. So it's sort of like an easy discipline. But to track it week by week would be better for me to know, to know how to make shifts along the way, I guess.
Yeah. So you have the information available to you, but really what you want to talk about, and we can talk about this in our, weekly call if you want, or somewhere offline, but you want to think about what to do about it and how to strategically look at it and make decisions based on what you're seeing. Because it is one thing to have the information, but then the decisions you make is another, right? That's the part that I'm working on now because I'm bad at having the information. I'm genius at making choices of once I have it. But I totally could go a year and be like, I look at my bank account, here's me. Holy shit, I got a lot of money. Cool. Talk to you later. That's it. Books, what? I just see like, whoa, that's a lot of money in there. I'm good. Because I'm used to being poor, man. I'm like, look, if there's plenty of government cheese in the refrigerator, I'm fine. I don't need a lot. So that's not a good way to do it. But if I know I have a problem, like recently, when I got real short on money because I had too much going on and too many houses kind of getting divided attention and I wasn't focusing on like one house, dude, it was like turbo time. I knew exactly how to fix it. That's why I've been running to my houses and I've been diving and I've been finding money. The reason so here's what I found over when I didn't pay attention over the last 3 or 4 months is my project manager started paying people, right? He got in a routine of like, this crew needs to make about 4K a week. And when they were really managed well, they would easily do 4K in work and he'd pay them 4K roughly. Right. But then there'd be weeks where they did 3K in work. He'd give them 4K. And then it'd be like weeks where they did 2K in work. He'd give them 4K. And there'd be the next week they did 4K in work. He'd give them 4K. He starts getting on a routine of just giving them 4K. Now they start predicting it, right? Like, holy crap, we're going to get 4K no matter what. And next thing you know, they're doing less and less work. So I go into the books and I start looking at the books over the last couple of months and I realized this pattern. That's why I don't have any cash. You take that across 7 or 8 houses and now he's spending over 10 grand over on this one on all these houses. That's 70, 80, 100 grand that I don't have in my bank account. And because he's not focusing on one house, like I was talking to Nikki and, I was talking to Nikki. Who else was I talking about that with? Oh crap. Who was the other person? Oh, they're right not here. Oh, it was Nikki and someone else, but think it was Nancy and Jim, but basically, you know, focusing on that one house at a time where you could really get it now dialed in. He wasn't doing that either. He was actually focusing on all of them. He's putting like a little bit of work into all of them, and they were all taking really long. So I said, stop. Let's pick the next two that are going to get done. I want you to ignore the rest. Just do these. Start getting me houses settled so I can get some money in my bank account. And that's what we have to do is when we're looking at our numbers, it's the actions to take that you see from the numbers. So we'll talk about it. In the higher level group, we're going to talk about how to set QuickBooks up and really set this reporting up. In this group, I want to guys just talk about a simple way. Who else has been tracking their numbers? Even if you're doing it poorly and it's not QuickBooks, is anyone using like Excel sheets? Or I used to use a white notebook, by the way, which is pretty awesome.
We do Excel.
Excel.
We upgraded from a white notebook to Excel, and now we're finally coming into the 21st century of QuickBooks.
Dude, QuickBooks, yeah.
Because we're not comfortable with QuickBooks, Excel, ironically, is you can do it every couple of days. Excel's, I mean, I don't, but Hannah keeps like spot on numbers. Like we're within like $100, like usually twice a week, we know the project number.
Yep. The last time I had that power, Ray, was when I had a white notebook that I would put my numbers in. Every time I spent money, I would pull the white notebook out, write in it. That was the last time that I knew all my numbers, and that was years ago. And I'm talking about I had full-time bookkeepers, accountants, and it was always in QuickBooks. It's always 2-3 weeks behind. So you're always getting the information late. You can't do anything about something that happened 3 weeks ago. So yeah, the book, right, by the way, and an Excel spreadsheet, well taken care of every day, is legitimately one of the best ways of doing it initially. Then obviously you have to upgrade into QuickBooks but QuickBooks is still going to be part of what we're doing. The higher levels, we're going to do in QuickBooks what we need to do QuickBooks, but then we're probably going to do a combination of an Excel spreadsheet for job costing. So that, we need to keep it simple essentially. When I got into QuickBooks, I never knew what was going on ever. From the second I started QuickBooks, I was confused. And I know a lot about QuickBooks. I'm pretty smart at it now, but to be honest, I felt out of the loop for quite a while. Brian, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I was going to say now I don't feel so bad because I was famous for the white notebook and the Excel sheet, but I updated it every day.
Whatever works, by the way. So that's really what we're getting to in this call, is that at some level you are tracking and writing your numbers down every day, calculating them at least once a week, and taking a view of what's going on, what you spent, how you're doing against your budgets. Because look, this stuff sucks to look at. It's like pulling hair for some people. Some people, Micah sounds like he likes it a little bit, so that's good, because some people don't. And whether you like it or you don't like it, it's something you have to do, right? It's like a necessary evil to be good as a house flipper, because the thing is, we can kind of tell ourselves what we want to tell ourselves. So if we don't have the numbers like staring us in the face, we'll start to create realities of like, oh no, we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. And because whenever anyone says that to me, when I have strategy sessions or anything, I'm like, well, specifically, are you doing good or not? Like, what's the numbers? They're like, oh, well, we get them together. We're a little behind on that. So you don't really know what you're doing then. So I can tell you right now, there's never been a scenario when someone didn't know what they were doing, and we looked at it, and when we got it all together and looked at it, and they were like, holy shit, it's better than I thought, man. It's so much better than I expected. You guys know what it is, right? When you don't know what it is, what do you think I see every time when we find out what it is? What do you guys, if you had to take an educated guess?
It's worse.
It's way worse, dude. It's scary. And by the way, that's true for me. So a second that I'm like, man, I ain't looked at my books. Have been a mess for the last couple of months because I was firing that bookkeeper. Well, do you think I liked what I found? No, I did not like what I found. And that's why I've been out in there. I got some gloves from Home Depot, and I've been out there acting like a goofball because I'm going to get it right. I'm going to fix it. But that had to do with me being a little hateful of books and not really liking it. So look, we're doing QuickBooks, but don't feel like you need to. I was about 3 steps away because I had a bookkeeper. I spent about $7,000 on a bookkeeper trying to fix my stuff since October, and she just wasn't ever getting it fixed. And I was like 3 steps away to going to an Excel spreadsheet, because I was like, back when I had an Excel spreadsheet, it all made sense. So it really only do what works. That's that simple. If you know QuickBooks and you happen to be really good at it, or you're learning it and you're really committed to learning it and understanding it, then it's a big commitment, right? Learning QuickBooks and learning how to do your business. The problem, if by say today, if you aren't doing QuickBooks and you're like, no, I'm going to do my business that way because it's the right way, you could be 3 to 6 months before you would be able to see your numbers. So that's the issue with learning QuickBooks right now, right? Because you don't want to be 3 to 6 months of not knowing what's going on with your money. with a notebook, with Excel spreadsheet. You can be doing it like, daily, like Brian was saying. You can be writing in a book. All that works. But we got to know our numbers. I'm going to be sharing with the group something Tanya's been working on for 2 weeks. She has a lot of hours into it, but effectively it's an Excel spreadsheet that you can create the budget on. The budget we do, it's that Excel spreadsheet. But what she made really cool with it is we can do weekly payables. Like Christine, you pay your people weekly, and you're like, okay, you're paying each guy weekly or whatever you pay them. But when you pay them, you write that payable in, and there's a little box next to it. You can hit paid. And when you pay them, write them a check, it'll take right off the budget and pull it right off that. And your budget now tells you how much you got left to spend. It tells you how much you've spent. And we can also do it with materials. You can take the materials and add it in, and it literally will just keep pulling from the budget. So now the budget becomes a reference you can be looking at daily of like, where am I at? And if you just spent a half hour a day looking at your budget, or even 15 minutes a day looking at your budget, you'd be so up to date on it that you'd know when things are going wrong, which gives you the opportunity to say, oh, we're going way over budget on this. Raise your hand. Like, I need to talk to Mike about this. Let's figure out how we can fix it. Because what I'm really, really good at is once I know what's going wrong, I'm really good at fixing it. That's like my superpower. I'll tell you what my kryptonite is. It's when I don't have a clue what's going on is my kryptonite. So when I didn't know what was going on for the last 4 months, well, how am I going to fix something I don't know is existing, right? It's like I got cancer and I don't have any symptoms. No way to get chemo or get, anything fixed. I'm just dying over here and didn't even know it. And that's how it is for everyone probably on this call at some level. So, for the people that are starting the rehabs, then I would say a big thing you want to commit to before you start any rehab is like, how will I track every dollar I spend? Simplest way is either do Excel, do a notebook, but when you spend any dollar, any receipt, keep your receipts, but more importantly, write your receipts down in a ledger and what you spent it on. And then you could sit there for 2 hours and you could reconcile your books at the end of the rehab. But I would prefer if you did it weekly. What we're seeing by doing it weekly, what really I found is if I do my books weekly or even every couple of days, most of the time, if I have a charge in there and I don't know what it is, I can just be like, oh, that's for that rehab and that was for this. And I know. But if I look at it a month later, I have no clue. And I got to call people, sit on hold for an hour. Hey, I'm calling about this receipt. Can you look into the email to me 5 days later? I mean, it literally takes like 8 to 9 times longer if you're trying to do Columbo research a month later of what you spent it on. But I can tell you right off the bat, like, Christine, what was $32 for the other day? You're going to be like, oh, that was for that thing. He went to Home Depot to get some stuff, right? You would know. Mike, you would. We all know that because it's very recent. So this is why we like to do it every few days, because it's going to be at the top of our head and we can just pull it right out of our head. No research necessary. A couple really smart, bookkeepers and CFO guys that I've been working with told me that's a very factual thing. They're like, every rehabber does their books at the end of the year for taxes, and it's a train wreck, and it takes like 8 to 10 times longer because they have to research everything and it's always inaccurate. They're like, there's no way to get it accurate. The only way to get it accurate is to kind of do it like, a couple times a week. Man, even 15 minutes a couple times a week, and you're just gonna be on top of it, and you'll know. And you can start making business decisions on like, okay, am I running my business well? Like, am I overspending? Like, if you got a budget in your personal life, you can do the same thing. I've never been good at keeping a budget in my personal life, but get ready to get real good at it soon, because I'm getting ready to put some controls in place that are gonna basically start emailing me stuff saying I'm a jerk if I do anything I'm not supposed to do. I'm working around my own crap, right? We have to do that sometimes. Yeah. You get a bunch of money in your bank account, you start thinking you can buy anything you want. Not the case, right? I have money in my account, but it ain't like my money to go buy toys with. It's my money to run my business. It's really my business's money. It ain't really mine. I mean, I can do what I want with it, but if I'm really respecting my business, I shouldn't be spending it on anything.
She's gonna come out.
When will I have it out? We're working on it tomorrow. I have everything done but the materials piece. So she's starting to enter materials tomorrow and making sure it works. So I'll have it by next week for sure.
I think that's a great idea. Just because from me going through this split for the first time, I was really doing a lot of reflecting. And I think that going line item by line item is the way to go for sure. And I started doing that, and I think I got a little too cocky and I got away from the line items. But having that budget there, I think it's just another safety net to keep you in line of like, okay, here's my money. This is where I am on the project. So I really like that you're building that feature in, because I feel like it'll keep you more organized and keeping up with the books. Because like Micah and I will go a month later, like you said, you're like, hey, what's this charge? And I'm generally good about labeling it within Home Depot or anything, but doing it every couple of days, I think is a really good idea. That's going to take a lot of discipline on my part because that's definitely not my strength.
Yep. It's not mine either. So don't, and I would probably bet it ain't many people in this call strength, but because honestly, when I talk with my bookkeeper and my CFO, the one has like 40 flip clients and he's like, no, like 2 or 3 of my clients do what you want to do. And he's like, they're absolutely crushing it and making more money than everyone else. The other 37, they basically are like, they got a bag of receipts at the end of the year and they just go like in a big pile and they all figure it out at the end of the year. And he's like, at best, it's like not usually accurate, but it's like close. But you can't make decisions. Now, by doing it multiple times a week, there's another benefit. Not only is it caught up, but you're going to see problems before they get too big. You're going to nip them in the bud. Like you're going to catch it when it's stage 1 cancer, not stage 4, right? Stage 4 is when you wait to the end of the year and it's like, sorry, Micah, there's nothing we can do for you. You're not going to make money on any of these flips this year, or you're not going to make what you thought, right? That's basically like dying of cancer, is you're not making what you thought. But, and there's nothing you can do about it. But if you're looking a couple times a week, it's impossible you wouldn't be able to fix it, especially with the guidance like I can help you with, because I can really say, here's how you fix it, here's what you do. So a big part of what you guys have to understand, and we talked about this earlier for all the, what I wanted to talk to with the regular group, is understanding that like money we spend on our flips is not expense, right? So we talked about this a little bit earlier. It is an asset, right? So when you take, I take my money that I spend on my flips, and the way I set it up and the way Ray's setting it up, and I'll teach everyone to set it up in QuickBooks, instead of going in my expenses, my money goes into an asset. When I buy a new flip, it becomes an asset, and every dollar I spend on that flip is going in as money. I'm increasing my asset. So it means money comes from my cash from my bank account and it goes into my asset. So if you got 40K or 50K in your bank account and now you put it into settlement and you start putting into doing work, but then you get drawn, that's all going to increase your asset. I do that with my coaching too, by the way. So I actually take my $3,000 a month I spend on coaching and I split it across my flips, because that's me investing into an asset. So where people think like, oh, that cost me money and I don't want to spend that money. Like, well, I'll give you a great example. Like Ashley was talking about paying her payments. Like she didn't realize, didn't know if they were rolled in or not. Sometimes they are, Ashley, by the way, but most of the time they're not. But the payments, the way we treat payments, as if you pay $1,200 a month, that's just going to be like money you put in the bank, right? It's no different. It's just going from your bank account into your asset base on your property. So it's an asset. It's not like spending $1,200 on a dirt bike or $1,200 on a trip or something, right? It's money that just is getting taken from one account to the other, right? It's going to be in your flip. So obviously it's not liquid. You can't get it if you need it. You only get it back when you sell your house. But when you get it back, here's the cool thing. You're going to get that money you spend back with extra profit back in return. So you can literally take like your coaching, you spend some money on coaching, you put that right into your flip and make it an expense, right? And overall, your business needs to be profitable. But it is an investment, it is an asset, because you will get that money back, right? Every dollar you spend on coaching, every dollar you spend on your rehab, it's all money you're going to get returned. It is not wasted money, right? Now, wasted money obviously is buying cars, dirt bikes, boats, trips, food. Warren Buffett hates food. I mean, he's one of the richest guys in the world. He thinks food's insane. He's like, he doesn't like to eat his money. And so when he goes to restaurants, because he's worth $90 billion, he has to go to nice restaurants. He's known for always getting the cheapest thing on the menu. It happens to be like a burger. So, he goes to these places where you get $200 steaks. He's like, give me the $20 burger, right? Because that's the cheapest thing. He's like, he doesn't believe in eating money. And this guy's worth $90 billion. Now, he's $90 billion. He lives in a home that's worth like $800K. Like he could live in anything he wants. He has a car that's 20 years old. It's like a Ford Expedition, but it's like 20 years old. So he doesn't blow money even with $90 billion. And he could if he wants, but he walks the walk, right? He does what he preaches, and that's not blowing things. And he's very wise. Like he will invest in things that, like, he believes in investing money. He doesn't believe in blowing money, right? So it's so weird that as Americans, like, we're trained by the credit card companies, commercials, and everyone, by our peers, colleges, everything. We're trained to blow money. Like we're trained, like if we go to our friends and we're like, hey, I just got this cool trip to Hawaii. It was like $8,000, dude. It's going to be so awesome. Your friend's going to be like, that's so cool. You're so lucky. High five. You're the best. I'm so proud of you. But if you were like, hey, I just spent this $10K enjoying this coaching program to flip houses, they're gonna be like, what? What are you talking about? Or I just invested in this flip. They're going to look at you like, oh, be careful. I just quit my job so I could flip houses. Ooh, oh, that's a scary time right now. I'm surprised you're doing that. Because people just we weren't wired to know that or understand that. Well, people don't understand. Rich Dad, Poor Dad talks about this all the time, the difference between an asset and, an expense, right? A debt. And it's really important to understand that. So, because it can get scary when you start investing in a flip and you're spending money and you feel like, oh my God, I'm spending all this money monthly, but you're not really. Because like every month, do you know how much money? I don't even count my hard money payments, but do you know how much my hard money payments are every month? 15 or 20 grand some months. And if I thought of that as an expense, I'd poop in my underwear. I can't spend 20 grand a month. Oh my God. But I'm not. I'm just taking 20 grand out of one account, putting it into another one. Because it's an investment that I get when I sell my house, I get it back and we're all good. But I mean, it's a little bit of a mind game though, right? Because I mean, when I'm writing the checks, it makes me nervous. But I know that it's all this balancing act of putting the money out, hard money payments, getting it back in hard money draws, right? Completing work, right? It's all this balance. We got to complete the work, we get the money back, and we need our initial investment, right? We need that initial money so we can float all that until it works. What I recommend to anyone who feels like they might not have enough money is obviously you can get a couple of those, you can get a couple loans. We're talking about like the quick loans you can get or the gap funding loans that we've been getting. And I know Marlo got one for like $35K. He got it after Corona. And he got it at like, I don't know, 8 or 10% interest. It was pretty cheap. So I think that's very cheap. And, Marlo had money, but he didn't have enough to where he would have been comfortable. So that helped him get really comfortable, right? So he could do his next flip. So he could get in the flip too. And that's usually available. If your credit's like, I don't know, probably, 700 or 680 to 700 or better, you're going to be able to get that usually. And he could have got more if he wanted. He could have actually did the same loan with multiple people.
I
And probably
just did mine today,
actually. You said you did yours today? Well, I think Ashley said something. I missed what she said. Just beep in whenever you're ready, Ashley. I'm sure sounds like she's in the middle of something. Oh, is that me?
Yeah, how does that work? What do you need gap funding?
So if your credit's reasonably good, you can go online. If you're doing a refi, Micah, I would not do it until you're done your refi, obviously.
Yeah.
Because it could, you don't want to start like take out. But once you're done your refi, you can go to like some lending places and they'll lend you like, just based on your credit, they'll lend you like 20 to 40K from each place. You apply to a couple places and you can get like, I had a couple students that got like 2 or 3 of them at a time and got like 50 to 60K without breaking a sweat. Not even that great of credit, like 680, 690 credit. Like, okay, good credit, but not great credit, right? You don't need like 800 or anything. If you have good credit, it'll be cheaper. Like, interest rate will be cheaper. No, nothing secures it. Yep, no secured, and they're doing them still. So Marlo just did one about 3 weeks ago, and so they're still doing it as far as I know. I think he was the last one who did one, and he got it. He put it in for a Saturday, had an answer on Monday, and I think it hit like his account on Wednesday. So it's a very quick process. And it was Lightstream, as I think who Marlo used was Lightstream.
Today. So,
Ashley, I'm sorry.
The same day I applied.
Ashley, go ahead. What did you say? You only heard half of what you said. It's like every time you talk, it's like a hook. I hear good stuff, but I don't know what you're saying. She's right breaking up. She keeps coming and saying the same day. She must have a phone because she's like pumping me up, man. I don't know. She's like bringing me in, hooking me in. And I'm like, hold on, what do you got going on? I think she's going to say that she applied for it today and got approved already, is what I think she's going to say, but I'll wait till she comes back. So yeah, they are quick and easy to get. These loans will not be out there forever. So these are good loans to get because who knows what 6 months will bring, whether you'll be able to do this in 6 months. And if cash is stopping you from doing your next deal, like Micah, you could go get this loan and forget any partner, right? And do your next deal with 35K you could pick up from someone instead of getting 30K and giving somebody a part of your deal. Go get 35K from there, no partner needed. And you keep that 35K as long as you want, and then that becomes enough money for you to do 2 deals at a time. So you are doing 2, but remember we talked about it being more like 1.5, but you're going to own 2 at a time, so you'll need the money for 2 at a time. So, go ahead, Ashley.
Hey, Mike, sorry. I was trying to park and it was too much going on. But can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, awesome. So I was saying that I applied for mine today and got approved today as well. So they're definitely still doing it, and they're really fast.
Okay. And who did you use? Was it Lightstream or?
It was.
Oh, it was Lightstream. Do you mind sharing like interest rate or anything, like what the number was on that?
Yeah. They initially they were telling me, like, when I was first putting in the information, they said it would be between like 4 and 5% or 4 and 6%, but it ended up being like 7 point something, like 7.5.
That's really cheap. Okay. Because for a loan like that, I mean, so Nick did a loan like that from Lightstream, like, I don't know, maybe 9 months ago or something, a year ago, and he was paying 14 or 15%. Marlo told me, I think he got 8 or 10 or something. I don't know, pretty cheap. You're saying 7.5. That's really good. So that's good. That's
What are the
really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you know the terms? Like, how long do you have to pay it back?
So I did 20,000 in 24 months.
Oh, good. Okay. And then, so what you can do, like for anyone else, is you can actually make your payments out of the 20 grand. That's what I told him to do until your flip settles. And then obviously you can either clear that off or just keep using it as money that you can use to keep running your business. So, yeah, it's
awesome.
Yeah, that was kind of the plan after I had talked to you about my payments with the hard money. So that's kind of why I went and got it. I wasn't sure what terms to get because they asked you to put in the amount of months you wanted. So, and I have to figure out if I could do an early payoff or not. That part I'm not sure about.
It doesn't matter.
But do you think 24 months is a good way to go?
I would go longer, honestly, and I think you can early pay off. But if you couldn't early pay off, then I'll take it. 7%. I pretty much will just take whatever money anybody would give me. Currently, right now, I got about $1 million in deals. So if somebody was giving me any money right now, I would just, because I'm paying 12 and 2, and you paid 13 and 3 or whatever it was. So just think of it like that money being much cheaper than what you're paying your hard money lender. It also is making you sleep well at night because you're not going to be like trying to get your deal done and having like just barely enough to get it done. Right? You're going to have money to run your business for the next couple months. That's what this 20 grand represents, enough to be able to pay for like, anything you need, your payments, whatever, right? Or a little extra money you need to float here and there. All that's going to be good now. And you can get more than one of them, by the way, if you ever needed them. So like I said, Nick got 2. I know someone that's got 3 of them at 20K. So it's, I always ask for as much and ask for as long as they'll keep it and, try to get the lowest interest rate because like you never really want to turn money down. People are always like, one thing Nick said to me, he's like, Mike, this is $600 a month. I can't afford to keep paying that. I'm like, don't you have the 40 grand in your bank account? He's like, yeah, but it's $600 a month. I'm like, well, I mean, cause he was getting pressed to find a deal. He's like 3 weeks into finding a deal and he didn't. I'm like, dude, you realize you could just pay it out of the 40K. And then if it takes you 2 or 3 months to get a really good deal, what's the big deal? Like get a great deal. And he ended up making pretty good money, like 20-some thousand bucks on this deal. And so it ended up being a good deal and he did find a deal, but he was getting just a little nervous because he got the money before he had a deal. And honestly, his credit was like, right on that fringe. So I was kind of like, you might want to get the money before you get a deal. You could always give it back. I mean, just pay a little bit of money. But anyhow, it's not like, look, 20K that you just got is like, don't look at it like debt. It literally is not debt. I mean, it literally is equity. It's 20 grand you owe, but it's 20 grand you have in your bank account. So there's zero debt there. Debt is when you buy a car and you buy it for 20 grand and then you drive it off the lot and it's worth, 15 grand and then you own it for a year or 2 and it's worth 10. Like now you have 20K in debt or 18K in debt, but you only got 10K in equity. So you're losing the difference. But when you got 20K in cash in your, in either your bank account or in your flip, meaning you still have it in your net worth, that 20K never gets spent really. Does that make sense? Because you're still getting it back, right? It's always going to be an asset you still own. You're just going to be in a different bucket. It can go from the bucket of being in your bank account to the bucket of being invested in your renovation, right? If it's in any of those buckets, it comes back to you with ROI, by the way, which is return on investment. So it is, that 20K is not debt. People are very afraid of getting like 20K gap loans because like, oh, I don't want to take on the debt. No, but they'll go buy a boat and take on 40K in debt for a boat. That's true debt, by the way. Right? It's like, or take an 8-10K vacation. That's like insane debt because that gives you nothing but a lot of happiness. I'm not going to lie. You go to Disney, the debt you incur from that, you go bankrupt. I mean, I know I went 3 times last year and I'm just recovering. I had to, that's why I'm working so hard now. Like even Disney on the cheap is like expensive. So it's like a money eater down there. A lot of fun though. I will give it that.
Mike, I have a question. So if you're able to get multiple gap loans, don't they check your debt to income ratio or any of that stuff?
Well, you don't do it. You got to do it all at the same time because it won't hit your credit for a while. So let's see. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. So it won't hit your credit right away. So if you are going to get more than one, then you would want to get it right away. So the move is you have to take and apply for them all at the same time. It won't hit your credit for about a couple weeks to 30 days. So you know your debt to income ratio. These are loans, so they're not like credit cards. Debt to income is going to be well. Debt to income is going to be important. But I mean, I don't know. They're only going to look at it if they're only one person is going to look and see if you can win. I mean, you can qualify, and then the other people are going to say you can qualify, and then you just get 2 or 3 of them at once.
Okay.
If they're not attached to anything, but you can't go back like a month or 2 months later and try to get another one. Then that might come up because they're going to see that you already have a 20K loan. So if you really thought you needed like 40 or 50K, then what you'd want to do is apply for 2 to 3 of them and try to get up to that 40 or 50K. That would be the best way. If do it all quickly together. That's
Gotcha.
And yeah, it works. That's what Nick did. He got like 2 of them and another person got 3 of them, but they did it all at one time.
Gotcha.
It's scary to get 3 20K loans, by the way, and like feel like, oh my God, I'm 60K in debt. I'm not saying get 60K and let's go to Hawaii and party it up. I'm saying get 60K and invest that 60K. That 60K is never debt if it's invested because you always have the original 60K. The only risk you run is that you do your rehab and lose money. Even then, let's say you lost 10 grand on your rehab, you still would owe 60K and get 50K back. You really only have 10K in debt. And that's if you lose money, which I don't have any students yet who have lost money. Faisal is actually the worst student ever who broke even, but he wasn't in the program when that happened. He didn't continue in the program with the project management group, and he kind of did it on his own. It ended up taking way longer, and it didn't work out as well as he hoped, and he broke even. But he wasn't coaching with me. He basically followed none of the stuff that we're doing right now. And you know, I think he did well, honestly, for not having a coach because it's a lot to figure out. But at the end of the day, he was the only student I know that's done that. And then I had one other student made 11 grand. Every other student's always made money. Like, I don't know. I don't think there's any students in here who haven't. And I don't think there will be because we kind of, you know, working with us and, you know, especially if you're in the project management group and we're working you through every little detail, then, you know, it's just impossible to really lose money. Just follow what you're doing. Even when you make some mistakes, you'll still do okay. So the reality is if you take 60K in debt, 320K loans, when you sell your house, you will get all 60 of that back. Likely if you make 20K, you're really getting 80 back on the 60. So you basically are taking 60K in debt. You have the 60K in cash, either cash or equity in your rehab, and then you get 20K back. Now it's actually making you money, right? It's actually becomes profit center. So it's an asset. And assets make you money. That's what Robert Kiyosaki says. And I agree with him on that. He's actually pretty smart about that. I don't know how much other stuff I agree with him about. It's not everything he teaches is solid, but that stuff is very solid. That's the core of what he's known for, and it's really good stuff. And so, yeah, taking a loan for an asset, really good. Investing in your coaching and your future, really good. You know, buying stuff that isn't going to give you a good return, you got to stay away from. So I'm eating out less right now. I'm trying to cut down my eating out because, you know, I got to stop eating my retirement. I've been eating my retirement. You could tell I'm like gaining some weight. I've been eating too much, man, and I'm eating out. And not to say you shouldn't eat at Nikki's if she has some food, but like I'm going to try and make like, you know, I got to stop her more often than eat her spot because I mean, can't go in, but I'm sure she's probably serving something. And but the thing is, I'm trying not to eat out as much. And I mean, like you go and like pick food up from places and eat a little more at home and, you know, eat more oodles and noodles just to keep overall just being thoughtful of not blowing money. Right. That's it. And it's good that I can't travel. That's been helping because that's a lack of traveling has definitely been saving me money. So what we were talking about QuickBooks. Anyone else in here got any questions about how you're keeping your books now and you know how often you're doing them? Yeah, good.
The money that we end up taking out in loans is kind of is included in the deal analyzer, like.
Well, yes, because here's the way it works. Let's say that when you run the deal analyzer, it works like this. You're going to put in what you pay for it, right? You're going to put in what you invest in the renovation. So if let's say you buy it for 100 and you put 50 in a renovation, it's going to calculate at 150. Now, when you do a hard money loan, because he made you put money down, right? You actually, your loan's probably only like 130 on that because he made you put 20K in. So when you go get to 20K, you're still going to be, you're going to just have a combination. It actually is going to make the de-analyzer less. So it'll be calculated a little bit less because 20K of your 150 that you didn't put, that you took out of your bank account to put down and then replace with a 7.5% loan will actually make the de-analyzer be better. So not enough to talk about, right? Obviously, it'll make it a little bit better because you're actually paying lower interest on a small portion of the money that you had allotted at a certain rate. So yes, it is calculated in, and by getting the gap loan, if you can get it at 7.5, it's actually beneficial. It's cheaper than if someone was to say, Ashley, I'll lend you 100% of the deal at 13 and 3. You're better off to say, no, I'll put 20% down and go get a gap loan for 8%. And you're going to take your effective rate and drive it down a little bit. Now, again, this isn't worth talking about, but it is, a small amount of money you would save. But it ain't going to be like, oh, I made 40 grand now instead of 30. It might be like you make another $500 or something, but you are saving money by doing it. So it's actually that wise, by the way. It's very wise. So I would actually think like, so Micah actually brings up a good point, and I just thought about this. I should be going to get some gap funding because what I'm doing right now is I'm paying 10 and 2 because I get 100% of the money. But Micah just made me think about it. I know that I could probably get like 9 and 1 if I was putting 20% down. Maybe I should go on one deal, do 9 and 1 is not really that different, but I mean, if I went and got like, enough money to do 20% down on a deal and got it at a cheaper rate, I could actually save money. I just don't know if I want to do that. It's a lot of headache. You guys aren't doing it to save the little bit of money you're saving by doing it. You're doing it so you can actually do a deal, right? Because sometimes it's the difference of doing a deal and not doing a deal. So then now you're talking about like income that you wouldn't have made, right? If you don't go get that gap loan or you don't go sign for that loan, it's money you'll never have the potential to make because you won't have enough money to get into a deal. And if you don't have enough money, you won't do a deal. That's the number one reason people can't find deals is they don't often always have their money together. I know personally, like I can tell you, like when I had just told you a story. I think you guys heard the story about when I had my toe in the water a couple of weeks ago and I lost the deal. And then I just got the deal back from a wholesaler. Gloria was actually the wholesaler you bought your deal from. Drew and Dave, the guy who used to work for me. I bought a deal from the MLS that I lost from 3 weeks ago. Then I lost it because I put my toe in the water and I didn't have all my money right because I had a lot of my money waiting to come from settlements. So I was like, yeah, I kind of need a deal. But then I was like, yeah, I don't have no money to buy it. But I was like, yeah, I could get some money out of this other account. And I didn't like, wasn't 100% in. So I just missed the deal. They got it. And then they just sold it back to me. But at a good price, so I'm okay with it. I don't really care how it comes to me. Doesn't matter if it comes back through a wholesaler or what happens. For me, I just couldn't care less. But I'm 100% in now because 2 houses have settled and I'm rich again. And now I'm like ready to buy, but I wasn't 100% in a couple of weeks ago. So this is why I like to get the money in right and get the stuff, get some money in my hands so I can be 100% in and I can go after deals aggressively. And it allow you, if you're doing like Marlo did his first deal, now he's able to do his second deal while he's still waiting on his first deal to settle. He was able to get into a second deal. He's actually blazing fast on his first deal, a second deal right now. So give Marlo a high five for that. He's I don't know, you only settled like 2 weeks ago, right? I think he's 2 weeks ago, and I think he's staging it tomorrow or something. I don't know. Does that sound right, Marlo? Might lost him. He's moving quick though. He's actually, I was joking about staging.
Hey Mike, hey, sorry about that. I didn't hear you.
Yeah. Are you okay. Staging tomorrow? I said you're like 2 weeks in on your rehab, right?
Oh, yeah.
Are you staging tomorrow?
Definitely. Yeah, but almost have the roughings done.
Yeah.
No, not yet. Not yet.
No, not staging, but so you demoed, you got your framing done, you got electric, plumbing, HVAC, you're almost on all 3. No, you don't never need to be that quick. But basically he's gotten his framing, his demo done, he's got all his rough-ins done almost, and he's a couple of days from being able to put like insulation and sheetrock up in 2 weeks. That's pretty fast because if he maintains this pace, he'll be done in 3 or 4 weeks. And that's a big difference. Your first flip took him like 3 or 4 months. So it really does happen like that. When you really work through your first flip, each one gets a little better. if you're fixing and improving things along the way. Now, if you're doing the same stuff that made you slow in the first one, which we tend to do as people, sometimes we don't like to break our own habits, then, you know, you'll get a little faster because you'll just get better, but you won't get dramatically faster. One thing I'll give Marlo credit for is that he's been willing to make major changes, and he's been really following the funnel very well. And, you know, he's got a little more experience now, so each one's going to get better and better. And so it is going very quickly. You know, it's a good house too, so I'm sure he'll sell it very easily. Just a good house, good neighborhood, and he's got a great design around it and everything. So, okay. Well, what else can I help with? Any other important stuff? I know we talked a lot about money, one of the most important things. It's kind of what we're here for, to make some money. So, but if you can't manage it well, then why make it? Probably be better just riding around like a minimalist on a bike with no socks on and living in a cardboard hut.
Hey, Mike.
Hey,
how do you, like, when I go to Home Depot, I'll spend like $300-400 and I'll get a bunch of stuff. Like, how do you itemize? That's what I'm struggling with. like, you know, I'll have like electrical boxes, I'll have some caulk in there, you know, to break that stuff down.
Next week, I'm going to teach you guys how to do it, and I'm going to give you my sheet. That sheet has the ability to itemize it and put it to each thing, so it'll go right off the budget, and it'll pull right off the materials on the budget. That's what we're creating right now. Dude, it's going to be amazing. She's like 2 weeks into it, and the guy I'm paying like $110 an hour, he's been working a lot of hours on it too. I know, because I keep getting the bills, and I'm like, holy shit, Tanya, can you do this on your own? Because every time that guy helps her out for a couple hours, like, hey, man, it's like $400. I'm like, oh, that guy's expensive. He's smart, though, and he's helped me kind of envision this kind of greatness. But, yeah, I got to keep him down a little bit, because otherwise, man, I'll be broke before I get this thing done. So, yes, I'm going to help you with that. It takes more time to optimize out every material, but honestly, you're only doing one flip and you got a little time on your hands. You could do it in probably 30-40 minutes a day max, but it's going to really, really help you know when you're overspending on stuff. And, you know, I call it like budget creep, right? Where the budget starts just creeping up and you're only like, holy shit. And I'm seeing it now. I'm doing it right now, and I'm itemizing my flips I'm doing right now. And I'm finding I found one thing I found was 32 pieces of 1x6 by 16 that was $418. No one got it. Like, my guy's like, I bought one piece that was 16 foot long. It wasn't 16 pieces of one piece. He's like, I bought one piece 16 foot long. And it wasn't at the house, anything. So I'm like, where's it at? And I found out they accidentally charged me for 16 pieces instead of for a 16 foot piece. So, like, that should have been like $18, and instead it was $360 or something. So we're going back to the camera, you know, because Home Depot is really good about that. They, like casinos, they got cameras and they can tell what you bought, and they'll go back. Like, I caught someone stealing from me one time going back like 2 months ago, and they're like, they know that stuff. You go to the camera. So we're going to the camera now so we can get it refunded. So I would have missed that, right? That's a little dumb thing, but, you know, then some of the stuff they buy, and, like, you know, they're always buying a lot of stuff. But my guys are getting good now because I've been on them. They went and got primed white 1x, and they found stuff that wasn't primed, and it was way cheaper. They were like, it's half the price. And I was like, high five, man. That was awesome. You're painted either way. Who cares? And they're like, they literally got one, because they had to put 1x around that baseboard they ripped out, and they got the stuff that was almost half the price by doing that. So, yeah, there's some room to look at everything you're spending. I'll give you access to, or if you're using my Home Depot account, or you're saving all your Home Depot receipts. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's what I do. And daily I go in there and just put them on like an Excel sheet, you know.
Cool. But you just want to itemize them out now, right? So that's going to be the job costing piece that I'm going to show you guys next week. That'll be awesome then. Okay. It's going to be simple too. That's why I'm doing it in Excel, because I feel like everyone can understand the basics of put this number here, put that number there. It's pretty easy. QuickBooks is a whole nother can of worms. On the higher level group, I'll be helping you guys out with QuickBooks and getting that integrated if you want to, and like setting it up properly so you understand your money. But lower level, I would say QuickBooks would be a distraction for you right now. Spend your time working on getting deals, you know, designs, layouts, managing contractors, and just doing your best to keep your costs down, right? And then once you start making a little more money and you got a little more time on your hands, maybe you get full-time into flipping. I probably wouldn't do QuickBooks in house flipping if you're not full-time in it, right? Personally, I mean, if you're not, when I say you're not doing full-time flipping, so, or at least ready to full-time, because it's a big undertaking to do QuickBooks. So that's kind of a advice you won't hear from many people, but it's logical advice, believe me. because you just need the math. So I'll share that. I should have it done by next week if she doesn't run into a bunch of stuff. She's going to be working on it all day tomorrow and the next day, and probably the rest of the week until she gets it right. So I'm assuming I should have it good by next Tuesday, because I'm doing it for my business. I need to break.
What about integrating that with Pro Extra or not? Because Pro Extra gives you a copy of your receipt emailed to you right away, and also you can go back to the website and pull it up.
So for you, yes. For everyone else, no. But what I mean by that is for the higher level group, I'm going to teach you guys how to automate, right? Because that's a lot of what we're going to start working on in the higher level group is automation as much as possible to cut time down. But the work of automating something, again, is too much at the lower level, because you could spend all your day trying to automate something and then not be hiring contractors and finding deals and managing your deal. But for you, Micah, you have more time to deal with this. You got Christine, so you got a helping hand. Yes, what we can do is we're going to try to do something called Receipt Bank. And what we're going to do is take it from Pro Extra with Receipt Bank into a email that then will then put it into an Excel spreadsheet or QuickBooks. Probably going to be the Excel spreadsheet, but then you'll have to go through and like adjust it all properly. But what it'll do for you is to do a lot of heavy lifting of getting the numbers off the paper into an Excel spreadsheet. And then you just have to verify everything like you're reconciling, essentially. Much faster, much more accurate, because the numbers will come off the paper accurate. When you pull them off the paper visually, you can transcribe things. Like I'm dyslexic, so I'm known for like taking 86 and making it 68. And so that's why I'm not a great bookkeeper for that reason, because I have to go real slow where I start transcribing things, and next thing you know, nothing works out. So yeah, I'll talk to you about. I have to test that though. That's going to be a couple weeks. That's on my to-do list of things I'm working through over the next 30 to 45 days with this bookkeeping team. But it's next after. My next thing is to get this done for you guys, and then so I can job cost. And then my next thing is to start writing checks out of QuickBooks. That's something you can do, Micah, so that I don't have to enter them in later. Is write the checks out of QuickBooks with all the contractors. And then after that, the next thing is going to be getting all the Home Depot receipts coming in automatically and figuring out how to make that work with Receipt Bank. Receipt Bank's very affordable. It's like $10 a month or something. I think I can have a couple of users too, or like 5 or 10 users. So I might be able to even work it out somehow with the group.
Okay.
So everyone you want to talk to says it works amazingly, but we'll see. I haven't confirmed yet. How about anyone else?
Mike, I don't know if you wanted to talk to me offline, but I kind of had questions about, next steps for me. But I don't know if you would rather talk to me later about it.
Well, no problem. I'll give you a call later just so we're not rushed. That way, we can make sure. But if you want, I can give you a call tomorrow if you're free. You know what your schedule looks like?
Okay, that works.
What's your schedule look
Wednesday,
like tomorrow?
I'll text you in a little bit after I pull it up.
Yes. No problem. Yeah, just let me know when's convenient for you. The only thing I have tomorrow, because I'm doing a lot of bookkeeping stuff, is as in like 2:30, I have a call with my coach. So other than that, I should be pretty free. Just let me know. I can work. I'll squeeze it in. We'll make it work.
Okay.
Anything else I can help with, David? We talked about your deck earlier, so you're gonna see if you can get that cheaper. I think you might be able to. And Glory, how's everything going with your house? And anything you need help with like your foundation, or did you get your guy going on that, or you get ready to get started on that soon? And Shauna, you probably, what I need to do with you whenever you're ready is we need to talk about like you really planning this out, because you're going to be settling soon. So what's ideal to do is really get your drawings done. I actually got like Tanya to do a complete, design for her with all the SKU numbers, layout, design, everything. So you can pay Tanya to do that. I don't make any money on that. That's just you hiring her at what I pay her. So if you want to do that, you can. Yeah. Did you get it yet, by the way? I think she sent it to you.
When? Today?
No, she told me there was something she needs to go
Oh, sorry,
over.
Ashley. Oh, okay, got it. So what she'll do is, she's done now. Because I just went over with her before this call, so she's all good now. She likes me just to review everything and make sure I can't bring any extra value to it. So you guys probably could set up a call in the next day or two, and what she likes to do is just review it all with you and make sure you like it all, and then and kind of walk you through how to use it best. She'll spend like 45 minutes or so on the phone, just a Zoom call going over everything, and then she'll give it to you and you're all good. Okay. It looks great, by the way. I've seen some of the stuff she's doing. I think you're going to be really happy with the end result, and it's going to flow well. I'm talking to Ashley, but I'm also talking to you, Shauna. Yours is going to look great too if you want to hire her. But if you don't want to hire her, that's fine too. I'm just saying she can do a lot. She spent like 7 hours on Ashley's. So like it's 7 hours of work you don't have to do essentially. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Because that's why I get her to do it, because I can totally do it. I'm pretty good at it, but at the end of the day, I need my time back. So I'll let her know to get a hold of you because you're settling soon. And what I was telling is you usually want to do it right around when you settle. So, yeah, and I'll come with her to make sure the layout's as good as possible. But
how do I contact
that's been my secret sauce for the last couple of months. I'll give her your number and just tell her to give you a call. I'll tell her, like, I'll text her now. Actually put it in
great.
so I don't forget.
Okay. Thanks.
Mike, you had mentioned 2 deals. Are you buying them? Are you offering them up, or
I'm buying
2 deals you're about to pull the trigger on? Are you buying them, or you are buying them? Okay.
All the time is when I need deals, I buy them, but I always end up getting more than I need because the residual work of things I'm working on that come 3 weeks from now when I don't need a deal, then I'll sell those off to the group. So I know I got a couple people in the group that are in. Deals, I find deals. I think I need 2 more, but the good news is I think I have them. I just don't officially have them yet. I got one with HUD where they sent me a counter and I accepted the counter, but they didn't actually send it to me as an accept. They sent it to me as like resubmit at this number and we'll accept it, which is very odd. It doesn't usually work that way. So I'm waiting anxiously by my email, hoping it'll come back. So I should have a deal there. And there's another one where I told you about that lady who's writing it, but it ain't even really on the market. And she just said she hadn't heard anything back. I'm making an offer on that that's like $35K over list. So I can't think I'm not going to get that. And I have the agent kind of like not even taking other offers on it. So I'm feeling like I got a really good shot. I'd be a little bit like surprised if I don't get that one. So there's a really good chance I have all the deals I need, but I got to keep actively looking until I actually have those under contract. What might end up happening is I might end up, keeping some of them, selling some of them off. I just have to look at my overall deal flow and make sure I don't have too many deals. I need 4 though. I had no deals for my guys, and like literally they're building a shed in my backyard because they were getting like no work. So that's why I need 4 deals, but I think I'll have all 4. I have 2 under contract and I'm pretty sure I have those other 2. They're just not under contract yet. We'll see. Because the 2 I got was the one I told you I got from that was on MLS, and I got it, and it was very difficult. It was actually a submission like propoffers.com, which I've never won a deal from propoffers.com before, but I offered 111 and they were only listed for 79, but the numbers are really strong on it. It was renovated 5 years ago, so it's only like a 40K renovation. The other one I got the one that I got just today was a wholesale deal I missed out on when I had my toe in the water, like we were talking about. And then the one that I'm hopefully getting from HUD today, and this is a cool news story. I haven't even told you guys this yet, but it's a deal I did like 9 years ago. So it's another deal I flipped again. So that's why I'm pumped to get it. It's actually a deal I flipped in 2009. So I was very new, probably like a year, 18 months into flipping. And it looks like crap again. So apparently I was a shitty flipper back then. I don't know what I was thinking. What I was doing back then? I was being too cheap. I was like not really doing enough to get top dollar for my deals is what it was. It would be like a great example for like Micah would be, and let me put in a great example would be like Micah, you taking that house you bought and just kind of cleaning it up and selling it. That's pretty much what I was doing back in the day versus like you put that addition for that master suite, you really made this house really premium, and you're going to get a premium dollar for it because of that. You're really going to attract some awesome people. Back in the day, I was doing the bare minimum, man. I was doing carpet paint and all that. It was really nice. I was putting nice hardwoods, but I wasn't opening my layouts up very well. My layouts were just really crappy, like tiny kitchens, and I wasn't going above and beyond to get the layout really nice. I already figured out how I'm going to fix this one. If I get it accepted in the next year or 2, I already know how to fix it and do it better. I just did it on Green Hill where I got $240 for Green Hill, and I sold it for $151 9 years ago. So, and I ended up getting $240 after I took and put a master suite in it, moved the kitchen to the dining room, made it awesome. It's really nice right now. And I got like 13 offers or something on that house. So yeah, it's the layout stuff we talk about is the big difference maker between what most flippers do. So that's a really big deal. So I should have deals soon, and I will be offering up deals to students. My deal is if I sell you something, I usually like to get the back end listing so we can talk about either that or just say, I can just charge you an assignment fee on the front end. I have to get something to make money so I can pay Tanya for doing the work because she does a lot of the heavy lifting. So it does actually, I do incur costs with doing this. It's not just me running around having fun. I enjoy doing it, but you know. But I don't look to get rich on you guys. So I'm not, what I'm not doing to anyone in the group, and one of the benefits of being in the group is I'm not like, I'm not trying to make like $50,000 or, you know, trying to get you to pay as much as you're willing to pay. I literally just put a small markup on it depending on the deal. And sometimes, you know, like I think the most I've ever made is like 10K, but often I'm making like 5K or 2 or 3K if that's what the deal allows. Sometimes I get a private deal, then I might make like 10K on a private deal. Like I think the deal I sold to Nancy and them, I made like 10K on, but it was a private deal. So I spent like 6K in marketing on it. So actually I made 4, and that 4 covered my cost of my labor. So I'm not really making a lot of money when I sell deals. I mean, I'm just kind of keeping movement in my business, right? Making a few bucks here and there. And I'm okay with that because honestly, selling you guys deals helps me. Because if I have that nice deal flow, that means I got deals when I need them. You guys got deals when you need them, right? It's awesome, right? It's a good ecosystem. It really helps me out and it helps you guys out too. So I don't mind doing it. And I just thought, and it's easy to sell to students versus like trying to sell to a random person. I can get more money from a person. I just can't, I can't deal with all the extra work. So, all right, I'm going to put that in my calendar actually for 10. Yes, that does work. Let's make sure. Yep, 10 o'clock. Cool. Put that in. Any other questions I can help with before we go?
One by prime versus one by non-primed. Cool. I'm gonna have an issue with that tomorrow. No big deal. I mean, like, you gotta pay for paint. So does it scratch? Do you have to repaint the primes all the time anyway?
Yeah,
Damage to it?
So. It's half the price, so, you know, it depends, man. I mean, if it's half the price, you just let them pay in it, right? I mean, yeah, you got to pay in it. If it's primed, it's nice, but it's double the price is what we're finding out. So if you do, it depends on where you're doing it. It's less painting, but you still got to paint it, though. Are you putting it in the garage? Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, touch up or actual paint? No, I'm actually, it's for my house, my front porch.
Your personal house? Oh, is it outside or inside?
I'm using this, like a lot of the work around my house. It's outside, underneath of the roof, but outside.
If it's outside, then
it won't catch water.
Then you want to use PVC. You still probably want to use PVC potentially, but don't use.
I said PVC.
Particle board, whatever you do, because that stuff pretty much swells up. And yeah. I mean, if it's going to get hit or have, you know, potential with like storms to get water on it, then probably either PVC would work or good wood one would work, like a solid wood. But don't get that MDF particle board because that stuff just like falls apart with any kind of like humidity and stuff.
Yeah, it
so
sounds odd not to put PVC or pressure treated period outside. Okay.
It's not going to be pressure treated because that doesn't paint well and that doesn't come in 1x usually. So you would do the PVC for 1x. If you're like, I'm building a shed and on the corner, I've got 1x's on the end, you know, because that's how you kind of finish it. I'm using PVC for that. But if it's under a porch and you don't think it's going to get hit with water, you could do the regular stuff. But if you're only talking about a small amount, man, just go ahead and get the PVC. I'm doing the whole house in 1x, so this is saving me a lot of money by doing it in the regular wood. It's saving me a ton of money because I literally am doing I was doing like 400 feet of it. So it was quite a bit, right? So that if you're getting like one piece, man, just make your life easy. Not going to be the end of the world. Maybe like I saved $6, but now I got to paint more,
right.
You know, a couple coats instead of one coat.
No, so like 48 feet.
Okay. Yeah. Look at it, man. I mean, PVC would be the best thing you could put outside. And it's your personal house. I would probably use the best thing.
Yeah.
You know, because if it doesn't hold up for a couple years, you'll be the one fixing it. So.
Right.
Yeah. I hate to sound like a jerk about it, but it's true, honestly. You know, if you're selling the house, it might be a different story. But, you know, right now you're definitely going to be dealing with it. So I like to use longer term materials if you're going to be living in the house for a while. Something to consider. Any other, anything else I can help with before we go? Well, next week, what we're going to be working on is some job costing. I think that's pretty relevant to almost everyone on the call. I'm sure the people who are looking for deals could really use this too. Job costing is going to be good. It really is all part of the balance of being able to make stuff happen. If you're really good at job costing and designing your layout, you're able to walk into deals and get them. The reason I can like identify deals and win them is because I know how to walk in and make layouts work, and I know how to job cost it very tightly so I can get in and get as aggressive as possible with each deal. So that's a big part of how I'm making stuff work. So anyhow, I will see everyone next week, and that's what we'll be talking about. And whatever else you guys need, if you have some general Q&A, we can talk about that too. But we'll spend maybe like the first half an hour just kind of going over that new tool we're creating. I'll give access to that tool to everyone because I think anyone who's doing a rehab at this time should be doing that, right? You guys should be doing it, okay? So awesome, everyone. Have a good evening. And everyone's doing a great job. I'm very proud of everyone. So keep up all the great work. And you guys are grinding it out. You're staying on it. And I know some people are looking for deals. Some people are doing them. Either way, it's all good, man. You're here. You're on the call. So that is a big part of the win, is being here and participating and just, hearing the good stuff, right? And not like, toning out and hiding in your room. So you're here. So awesome. Great, everyone. Thank you, guys. I'll see you next week. Going to eat some dinner. Dinner time. All right. See you.